Hey, what's up, guys? Mike's here. So, ready to hit yourselves with another chapter of Shut Up and Dance. Let's hit it off right now. And Lance and Keith are getting themselves together, and they know what they're going on, and they are ready to compatible and start preparing now for the region. So let's get started on chapter 12 for this thing. And fair warning, guys, there's going to be a NSW scene somewhere down there. So you're gonna see the warning up there. If there's like a which one is it? So you're gonna see it the whole time when you're gonna have as I read along. So okay, gotta keep in mind that because there's gonna be an NSW scene here. So I'm gonna have to go somewhere on my room to keep it a little private. Okay, because this right here, it's going to be public. But in my room, it's going to be private, so I'll keep an eye on that. Alright. Much like with Lance, Keith is starting to develop a complicated relationship with Altea Dance Studio. On one hand, it is his safe haven. He feels at home among these halls. He finds comfort in the familiar sights, smells, and sounds. This studio introduced him into dancing. It helped him through a rough spot in his life, taught him a new way to express himself, to let it out, to stress, to relax. It gave him a purpose that he never thought he'd have, but cherishes nonetheless. This studio is where his brother's heart is, his stability, his center. This studio is where Alora's legacy is, her spirit particularly radiating from the very foundation. This studio is where he reconnected with old friends and made new ones. This studio is where he found a new family. This studio is where he found Lance. He's always been happy to be at the studio because the studio has always been where he comes to escape his problems, to be himself, to do the things he wants to do. The studio has always been where everything makes sense. Now, however, nothing makes sense anymore. Here and now, walking through these halls, his chest feels tight, his palms feel sweaty beneath his gloves, and his fingers are twitching, tapping, and rubbing his fingers with thumb. The hand holding the strap of his bag drums Italy rhythms, rushed and incoherent. His steps are heavy, like his body is made of lead as he drags himself up the stairs. He knows logically that his movements are no less fluid than they usually are, but he feels stiff, like his mind and awareness aren't quite connected to his body. Walking through the doors of Altea, sitting the familiar worn hardwood floors, reflecting the fluorescent lights, smelling the vaguely citrus smell of whatever cleaner Karen uses. Hearing the muffled sounds of music practically pulsing through the walls, it used to all put him at ease, center him, clear his headspace. Now, his headspace has never been more cluttered, and it's leaking out onto his chest, making his heart pound restlessly, tightening and clenching as he thinks about his practice room, as he subconsciously listens specifically for Lance's voice, as he imagines that smile, that voice. And no matter how much he thinks about it, prepares for it, seeing him always blindsides Key, hits him like a chuck to the chest, leaves him out of breath and momentarily flatlining until Lance does something else that jolts life back through his veins. It's dizzying, it's exhilarating, it's nauseating. It makes him feel light and warm, and it makes him feel heavy and laden. He used to look forward to coming to Altea Dance Studios, and he still does, but his reasons have shifted somewhat, and he hasn't gotten used to it. Hasn't got used to the way his body reacts to Lance now. Isn't sure he wants to get used to it, but it bothers him all the same. Makes him feel anxious, worried, nervous, anticipation turning sour in his gut whenever he pulls up to the parking lot and walks through those doors, climbs these familiar steps. But then he walks into room 4D. He sees that familiar face, that bright smile that usually shows himself when he walks in, hears that familiar voice, and suddenly the knot in his gut is unwinding, releasing butterflies that bounce around in his chest and make him feel weak at the knees. Then they always fall back into familiarity, always, without fail. No matter how anxious he is on his way, no matter how much he worries, no matter how many shy looks they share, and tentative smiles and hesitant touches at the beginning of practice, they always fall back into familiarity, warm and comforting. Because no matter how else he feels, no matter what eats away at him when they're apart, no matter what gets him all stirred up inside when they're together, the fact remains that he's comfortable with Lance. He trusts Lance. He likes being around with Lance. Altea Dancers may have been his second home for a long time, his escape and his refuge from the world. But now it's starting to be that way, simply because of the people inside it. His brother, his friends, Lance. Climbing the stairs, he can feel his heart convulsing with every step, stomach fluttering as he reaches the door to the 4th floor. Jesus Christ. He needs to get a grip. He's being ridiculous. It's just Lance. No matter how pretty, how attractive, how he makes Keith's body feel, it's just Lance. He's dealt with Lance for months now. So what if their last practice has Lance pressing him to the mirror with his hand down Keith's pants, eyes lidded and smoldering as they met Keith's in the reflection? Oh God, how is he going to look in that mirror now? Is this going to become a regular thing? They've already crossed the line here at the studio twice now. It wouldn't surprise him if they kept this momentum going. At the thought of this, of getting each other off, of wandering hands and desperate lips become a regular part of their practice schedule, Keith feels both dread and excitement coiling in his gut, twisting and riffing until neither could be told apart. He's not sure what to make of that, and he's not sure how to feel about it. Fortunately, he's distracted from those thoughts at the sound of voices as he steps out into the hallway. Unfortunately, he doesn't recognize those voices. The music is nothing out of the ordinary. He's not surprised anymore by the variety of genres that come from putting Lance's phone on shuffle. What is out of the ordinary, however, is the fact that Lance is here, right now, and the fact that he's not alone. Keith pauses for a moment, pulling out his phone to check the time, and yep, it's still 10 minutes early. Keith had kind of been hoping to arrive before him and get a chance to settle his erratic heartbeat in a room by himself before he had to face Lance. Guess that isn't going to happen. He shoves his phone back into his bag and inches toward the room. The door is creaked, and he puts his hand tentatively on it, slowly pushing it open and peeking through. Lance is there, in the center of the room, along with 3 kids. One is clinging to his back like her life depends on it. Dark, wavy hair pulled back into pigtails. She buries her face in Lance's neck, arms and legs wrapped tight around him. Lance spins around in place, holding onto a young boy's hands and spinning him fast enough that his legs have left the ground. A 3rd child, a little girl with a white, toothy smile and a missing front tooth, jumps up and down around them, the fist thrown into the air as she encourages them with wordless shouts. It's such a strange sight, and one Keith definitely didn't sign up for. It's not that he's not good with kids, it's just that he's not sure what to do with them. He has a hard enough time reading adults, let alone hyperactive little enigmas. Just the thought of it, after having no prior warning or preparation, has his chest squeezing with a whole new kind of anxiety. They haven't noticed him yet, and he wants to just leave. It would be so easy. Just duck back out of the room, sneak back down the hall, and send Lance a text saying he can't make it today. He'd probably beat himself up about it later, but right now, escape is the only thing in his mind. But when he goes to move, he finds his feet firmly planted, eyes unable to look away, because they're laughing. All of them, laughing and screaming in volumes that are not inside voices. But he's not really surprised if these kids are related to Lance. And he's certain they have to be. They'll have to be They all have the same dark skin, the same brown hair, the same bright smiles that lights up their faces, the same abundance of energy and uninhibited laugh. Even as anxiety squeezes at his lungs, his heart clenches, warmth pulling in his gut and spreading outward, melting the ice in his veins. The scene before him is oddly intimate, something between family, a warm and comfortable bubble that he feels like he's not allowed to be a part of. Feels like he's watching from the outside, like nothing can touch them in this moment. It's a part of Lance he's only seen glimpses of in the bookstore, and Keith is realizing now that he wants to see more of it. The realization hits him out of nowhere, sneaks up behind him and sweeps his feet out from under him, leaves him with the sensation of falling, but the ground is never there to catch him, leaves him breathless, exhilarated, and terrified. They start to slow down, and eventually the boy's feet touch the ground again. Both he and Lance wobble as they try to get their bearings, and Lance's hands go to the feet wrapped around his torso, making sure his back passenger is still in place. With the boy no longer spinning, Keith realizes that he recognizes him. Leo, Lance's little brother, the one that bears such a strong and striking resemblance that he might as well be looking at then and now picture. He's met him several times at the bookstore by now, but he's still surprised every time. His hair is shaggier, and his nose is a little wider, but all his other features are still round with youth and could easily be exactly what Lance looked like as a child. Leo, stumbling across the floor in a way that's probably more exaggerated than needed. Another trait Keith is starting to associate with Lance's family, is the first to notice him. His eyes land on Keith, and he stands still as he can, still alerting precariously to the side. His face blanks for a moment, brows furrowing in thought. Keith freezes, heart hammering as he momentarily forgets to breathe. He can't run now. He can't. He is going to be expected to interact with them. He is going to have to barge into his perfect little warm bubble of family, and he doesn't belong here. He doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. Then Leo is grinning, bright and wide, crinkling his eyes in the same way Lance does. Keith, he says, cheerful and friendly, like he does when Lance brings him by the bookstore and they stalk him through the aisles. At the sound of his name, Lance's head snaps up, stumbling just slightly at the sudden moment. Their eyes meet, and Keith is far too aware of the beat of his heart. It's loud and painful, and surely everyone else can hear it too? For a moment, just a moment, he panics. Lance's face is blank, eyes wide, lips lax, several emotions pinging across his features before it settles into sheepish. He gives Keith a small smile, almost shy, looking up through his lashes. It's so out of place that it snaps Keith out of his thoughts. Hey, Keith, Lance says, uncertain weight shifting from foot to foot, shoulders hunched just slightly. Hey, he says, hoping it doesn't sound as breathless as it feels. He pushes into the room, gently pushing the door shut behind him. He stands there, awkward and unsure, lifting a hand in a stiff wave and cringing at it as soon as he does it. The other two are looking at him now too. The little girl on the floor eyes him openly and curiously, face scrunched up, perplexed, like she's not sure what to make of him, but she doesn't quite care either way. The one on Lance's back is shyer, peering up at him from under her bangs, face still half buried in Lance's shoulder. Lance's smile is apologetic as he reaches behind him, bending forward as he disentangles the girl from his back and lifts her over his head, setting her on the floor. She immediately clings to his shirt, stepping around him so he stands between her and Keith, but she keeps her eyes on him. Sorry about springing this on you. I was about to leave, but then Mama had to take baby Oliver to the doctor because of his ear infection. Because my brother and his wife are at work, and that's like 10 times easier when you don't have 3 other kids in tow. And Sophie's at soccer practice, so she couldn't babysit. And Lance, Keith says, cut him off before it can really get started. Because Keith knows Lance, and he's been around him enough to recognize when a nervous ramble is coming, and the boy was trucking around that at top speed. Lance snaps his mouth shut, eyes still wide and brows furrowed. and Keith offers him a small smile. It's fine. The words are simple, but he hopes the tone of his voice is enough. It seems to do the trick. Lance's whole body relaxes, shoulders slumping, and a small, easy smile taking over his lips. Okay, yeah, cool. The silence that passes between them and the gaze they share is just a hair too intimate for Keith's liking, but at the same time, he can't bring himself to want it to stop. He stares at Keith for perhaps a second too long before he seems to snap out of it, the whole body jerking as he turns his gaze to the kids around him. Right. So, you already know Leo, he says, putting a heavy hand on his brother's head and ruffling his hair. Leo just grins, giving Keith a little salute and a wink, which sends Keith for a loop because he looks just like Lance. Yo! And these two pretty ladies are my brother's kids. He holds his hands out to the girl who had jumping around them. She takes it, and then spins her around several times. This is Abigail. He reaches his other hand toward the girl, clinging to his side, shooting it across her hair and down her back. And the shy one is Maria. They're twins. His smile is soft and fond, matching perfectly to the hint of pride in his voice. And it's really just too much. He'd seen Lance with Sophie, and he'd seen Lance with Leo. With them, he's the older brother. He's loving but teasing, picking on them and holding air of authority that they able bid to, but not without some teasing and protest of their own. This, however, is different. Uncle Lance is different. Uncle Lance is soft in all of these subtle ways, mature and fond and soft and protective and fun, and Jesus, he could just go on, but he can't because the sides of it has his heart racing and his mind blanking. Everyone say hi to Keith, my dance partner, Lance says, completely unaware of what he's doing to him. Hi, Keith, Abigail and Leo say, monotone and loud. A cue well known whenever they're introduced to someone. Maria stays quiet, but she hasn't stopped watching Keith, and he's starting to fidget under the four pairs of eerily similar blue eyes. Hi, Keith tries again, feeling incredibly out of place. Abigail is the first to break the moment, deciding Keith is no longer of interest and turning back to Lance. Tio, Lance, she says, bouncing on her feet and tugging at his hand. My turn. Spin me. Spin me. He smiles at her keenly, but shakes his head. Not now, Abby. Keith and I had to practice. She immediately slumps, face scrunching into her pout. And holy sh... Has Lance taught all these kids his expressions, or do they just run in the family? But Leo got to. I'll spin you after, okay? I promise, he says, pulling his hand away from her and gently nudging Maria around his body and toward the wall. You guys promise to behave, remember? If you sit and be good while we practice, I promise we can play more later. Abigail sighs loudly, tossing her head back and turning her sigh into a drawn-out groan. Fine, she says, crossing her arms over her chest as she stumps over to the wall and turns her back to it, sliding down and sitting on the floor, pout still held strong. Keith has to bite back a laugh, turn it into a cup to cover it up. He catches Lance's attention, however. He turns to Keith, pointing a warning finger at him. Not a word, Kogani, he says flatly, fighting a smile that threatens to tug at the corners of his lips. Keith rolls his eyes and turns to hide his own smile, going to the other side of the room to set his bag down by the mirror. Will you teach us how to dance? Leah asked, excitement coloring his voice and slurring his words. Show your moves, he says in a cadence and tone that sounds suspiciously like Captain Falcon, and Keith glances up in the mirror in time to see him strike a pose, though entirely inspired by disco. Holding back his smile becomes near painful as he watches Lance striking a mirroring pose. After we've done, buddy, I'll teach you how to dance like a pro. Keith isn't sure he's going to survive the next hour. The practice itself goes fairly smoothly after that, now that they finally see eye to eye and have fallen into a groove with their choreography. The original's dance is progressing smoothly, For the most part, Lance lets Keith take the reins when it comes to their choreography, but Keith has started to develop an appreciation for Lance's input and is more than willing to listen to his ideas when he has them, helps him out of his own creative slumps, and keeps them from having a mental roadblock. Though it feels an initial spark of irritation when Lance suggests they change something that Keith has come up with, that spark is quickly put out by the realization that Lance doesn't just make suggestions for no reason. There's always a reason, and they're usually pretty insightful, like how I might come across better to an audience that will make it easier for them. That's what's worth the risk and what isn't. What looks better enthusiastically and what would help them transition easier between moves. For the most part, Keith is choreographing the verses and Lance has the chorus covered, but the whole thing is this odd mix of both of their ideas and input. And Keith really likes it. Makes it feel like theirs. Makes everything feel that much better when they click and line up, and he can feel that synergy. They make a better team than Keith anticipated once they got over that initial roadblock. Keith puts a little more structure to their practices, and Lance keeps Keith from getting too far into his head, from taking everything too seriously. The practice is no different. They go over what they've already done and work through things they're still structuring. It's a lot of repeating, a lot of start of stop. It's a lot one dancing while the other watches, picking apart the performance and finding each other's weak spots to work on. And the kids are surprisingly good. They sit quietly off to the side, back to the wall, occasionally talking together in low voices. Leo has his nose buried in a book, while Abigail and Maria busy themselves with the tablet. They're so well behaved that it's easy to forget they're there. Unfortunately, they're so well behaved that Keith has trouble remembering they're there. Every touch, every smile, every roll of Lance's body sends Keith's heart into a stuttering double time, makes his smile shy and coy all at once, makes him leave lingering touches, makes him pop his hips just a little more, roll his body just a little more, makes him lift his shirt to wipe sweat from his face because he knows Lance will stare at his exposed stomach. And he knows Lance at this point, and Lance knows him. They know how to set each other off. They know that the other is staring, and they don't feel like they have to hide it. They like it, and they know the other likes it. Not only are they dancing around each other, but they're dancing around each other, teasing and coy, slowly and slowly building up an atmosphere that sparks and crackles between them. An energy that Keith feels vibrating through the air and an itch beneath his skin. And from the looks Lance gives him, from the way he moves just a fraction slower than he needs to, eyes lidded, lips locked in that confident smirk, fingertips dancing across his skin when there's no real reason for them to be. Keith knows that Lance feels it too. Then Keith catches sight of the kids in the mirror, and his heart damn near stops. This is not the time to be thinking about Lance's hands on his body, of how he wants Lance to push him to the floor and wraps his legs around his hips, of how he wants to bite at those pretty, thin, soft lips until they're swollen and red, and Lance can't smile without feeling it and thinking about him. This is not the time, and the dread knotting in his stomach and the realization of their presence is like ice in his veins, putting out whatever fire building between them enough to keep Keith in line and his hands to himself. So their practice ends up in being extra productive, if only because they don't have the option to be distracted, and the knowledge of that forces Keith to focus. They make it about 40 minutes before Abigail starts to get restless. Every time they stop the song to reset, she perks and asks, "Now, T.O. Lance?" before slumping back into a pout when he says no. Eventually, Leo joins in, setting his book aside and watching them with avid interest. When they finish doing a run through of everything, as patchwork and rocky as it is, Leo's already on his feet, practically jumping up and down with his fists clenched tight in front of him. "Lance! Lance!" he says to get their attention. His eyes are bright and his face expressive. Keith wonders if all the McLeans are like that. "What is it, buddy?" Lance asks, grabbing his water bottle and chugging a sip before lowering it, gasping for breath. Keith is too busy watching away. A drop of water runs down the column of his throat, and the way Lance wipes carelessly at his mouth to notice when Lance tosses the water bottle at him. He fumbles with it, but manages to hold on, no doubt looking flustered and startled. Lance just gives him a knowing smirk and a wink before turning back to his brother. Can you show us how to do that move? Leo asked, excitement bubbling infectious. It's Abigail on her feet too, jumping up and down beside him, chanting, "Show us! Show us! Show us!" Lance raised an eyebrow, cocking one hip to the side and putting his hand on it. What move? We did a lot of moves just now. Leo rolls his eyes, whole body getting into it and head low into the side. That move, Lance, he says, like it should be obvious which one he means. He glares as Lance continues to just stare at him, eyebrows quirk and lips tilted in amusement. Finally, he hops and steps forward. The move that was like, he does something. He certainly tries. He thinks it might be an attempt at one of the moves they have in their course, but honestly, it's so all over the place and vague that could be a variation of several moves they have in their routine. In the process of his attempt, Leo nearly falls over, gangly limbs flailing. He manages to keep his face carefully blank, but Lance has no such luck. He laughs, good-natured and kind. Oh, that move, he says, though Keith is certain he actually has no idea what move Leo is talking about. Alright, calm down, buddy. We don't need you falling and breaking something. Mama will kill me. Then show me how to do it right, Leo protests, wine dragging out his words. Abigail is a bundle of barely contained energy beside him. She hunches her fist up her chin and turns a suspiciously familiar set of puppy dog eyes on Lance and says, "Please, T.L. Lance?" And that has Lance's revolver cracking. He turns to Keith, expressions conflicting as he says, "Do you mind?" And his voice is two parts worried, one part uncertain, one part amused, and two parts defeated. Keith's lips tug up into the shadow of a smile as he waves Lance off. "Yeah, it's no problem. We got a lot done today anyway." With permission, Lance's face brightens right the up, back straightening and grin spreading wide. "Cool. Awesome." He turns to Leo and Abigail and just them over. "You heard the man. Get over here." They squeal in delight and charge across the floor, coming to a stop in front of Lance, both of them talking a mile a minute about what they want him to show them. Lance laughing, attempting and failing to corral them. Keith watches for a moment, smile wandering of his own accord, before he notices something is off. Maria hasn't joined them. He glances over at her, expression falling into one of curious confusion. She's still sitting up against the wall, tablet cradled in her lap and hand hovering above it, but her attention is on the other, glancing shyly up at them from under her lashes. She bites at the bottom lip. Keith's heart aches, lurching and squeezing with an intensity that catches him off guard, nearly making him stumble with it. He knows that look. He recognizes the longing in her expression, in her eyes. He knows it because he's experienced it far more times than he liked to admit. His feet are moving before he really thinks about it, carrying him across the room and placing him beside her. He leans against the wall, taking a moment to simply watch the others. Lance is doing his best to guide the other two through some simpler moves. Surprisingly, Abigail is better at picking up on rhythm than Leo is, despite their age gap. Leo seems to have a coordination of a three-legged turtle, but the spark of defiance and determination on his face is something admirable, and a smile that overtakes everything when he figures out how to do it warms the room. Keith likes watching them, like sitting off to the side and watching Lance interact with his brother and niece. It's like getting a peek at the side of Lance that he normally isn't privy to, and he likes it. Makes him feel a lot of things that he doesn't really want to dwell on right now, but enjoys nonetheless. But there's a shadow in the room, and it feels the overwhelming urge to address it. He slides down the wall, sitting far enough away from Maria to give her space, but close enough that their conversation can be kept private. She's turned back to her tablet, focusing on it far too heavily for it to be anything more than just for show. Her brows are furrowed, lips pursed into a small pout, gaze pointedly downward. Keith watches her for a moment, and despite the awkwardness fizzling in his chest, a smile finds its way to his face. I like your bracelets, he says, softly. She startles, like she wasn't expecting him to actually speak. She jerks her head to the side, gazing at him with eyes that are far, far too blue. Her mouth hangs open, slightly, confusion coloring her features. His smile widens just a fraction, and he points to the colorful woven bracelets around her small wrist. I like your bracelets, he repeats. And she looks at them like she had completely forgotten they were there. Now that he's actually looking, he realizes that they all have them. Maria, Abigail, and Leo. The twins have them on both wrists, and Leo has them on one, but they all have them. They look like lances. She brightens a little bit, legs relaxing and tablet falling forgotten on her lap as she holds out the wrist, picking each bracelet in turn. Tia Lance made me this one, and this one, she says, pointing out ones with themes of blue. Tia Nora made this one. Abuela made this one. Abby made me this one. Papa made me this one. Mama made me one, but hers fell off because she's not good at it. Keith finds himself chuckling, her soft enthusiasm infectious and bubbling in his chest. Did you make any of them? He asks. She shakes her head, lips pursing slightly. You don't make them for yourself, she says, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. And Keith's stomach flips, twisting in on itself in rolls that aren't necessarily unpleasant, but leave him feeling light and distant. He's known that all of Lance's bracelets were made by his family. He's known it. Lance has told him, has said it's a family tradition that they're passing down through the generations. He just hasn't really thought about it before. Hasn't taken the time to imagine Lance with his brothers and sisters, his nieces, his parents, all of them gathered around with colored thread, weaving them together to make bracelets for each other. Each of them a gift. Each of them binding each other together. Each of them a reminder of family. And it's not a secret. And never has been. But Keith feels like he stumbled across one anyway. Looks across the room at Lance and feels like his heart can't make up its mind about whether it wants to sink into his stomach or lodge itself in his throat. It's stupid. It's small. It's just a little family tradition. But it's just so Lance. Another puzzle that makes up the whole of who he is. Another layer unlocked. Something this trivial, something he already knew. Shouldn't affect him this much, but it does. It does, and it scares him, and it excites him. And it makes him feel so much that it doesn't feel like he has the mental capacity to dwell on right now. So instead, he turns back to Maria and asks the question that had him coming over here to begin with. Why aren't you dancing with them? She shies away at the question, shoulders hunching a little as she pulls to herself. I don't wanna, she mumbles, but it's not convincing. Why not? She picks at her bracelets, eyes on them to avoid looking at anyone else. For a moment, Keith doesn't think she'll answer, and when she does, it's a mumble that she has to strain to hear. I'm not good at it, she smiles, scooting an inch closer so they can talk in soft, muted voices. Not everyone is good at it, especially when they're just starting out. He says kindly, feeling the odd sense of deja vu as Cheryl's own words to him echo in his memory. It had taken a lot of prodding for Cheryl to get him to try it, but he was incredibly grateful that he had. Abby is, she says, glancing up at their twin before looking back down. Keith watches them for a moment, watches Lance pokes and prods at Leo and Abby's held pose before standing back, rubbing his chin as he looks over them with an overdone critical gaze, before nodding. Yeah, he admits. But maybe you are too. You don't know until you try. She shakes her head quickly. I really did. I'm not good. Keith leans in toward her, lowering his voice, like he's about to tell her a secret. It piques her interest, just as he hoped it would. Neither is Leo, but he's still having fun, he says. She blinks, then smiles. They both glance over as Leo loses balance and falls flat on his ass. Keith smiles and Maria giggles before turning back to him. She looks him over, losing some shyness in her curiosity. Were you good when you started? He shakes his head. Nope. he says, leaning back against the wall. My brother taught me how to dance. It took a while before I was willing to dance in front of other people. Face at them and his gloves. Eyes on Lance as he helps his brother off the floor. I still have trouble dancing in front of people sometimes, but Lance helped me with that. He's a good teacher, he says, distantly aware of how soft his voice is, but unable to be embarrassed about it when the only one who can hear him is Maria. Lance glances up at them and catches Keith's eye. He jerks a little when their eyes lock, breath leaving his lungs in a slow exhale. Then Lance glances between him and Maria, and he smiles this smile that's small and soft and fond, and Keith simultaneously feels he can breathe again, like he can't breathe at all. Then Lance's attention is dragged away as Abigail tugs at his hand. You're a good dancer too, Maria says, pulling him back to himself. He blinks, turning to her. What? You're a good dancer, he says, matter of fact and certain, nodding to herself as if to affirm this fact. Like T.O. Lance. Thanks, he says, offering her a small smile. Can you teach me? She asks, voice small and barely audible above the music pulsing through the speakers. Her shyness is back in full force, and she refuses to look at him. Me? Keith says, entirely baffled. But what about Lance? She shrugs, fingers toying with her bracelets again. He's basically with Abby and Leo, and Keith doesn't know what possesses him then. Maybe it's how his heart aches for her. Maybe it's because he sees some of himself in her. Maybe it's because watching Lance's family makes him feel whole and empty at the same time. He normally doesn't like kids, doesn't know how to deal with them, but he thinks he'll make an exception. He pushes himself to his feet, brushing off his pants before turning to her, holding out his hand and giving her a smile that's barely there, but one that he knows she'll be able to see. All right, he says softly. Let's go. She hesitates for only a moment, conflict and uncertainty passing over her features, before she shoves her tablet aside and stands, taking his hand with brows and lips pursed in a different flare that's so incredibly familiar. He takes her off to the side of the room, as far away from the others as they can get. It feels awkward at first, but it fades quickly. Maria puts him at ease. Turns out she has her own little sparks of energy, but she's not as loud and outward about it as the others. She's quieter, more reserved, more hesitant, but he keeps seeing these glimpses of her that just scream, McLean, and it warms his heart. They didn't do anything fancy, but he gets her to try some basic dance moves, and once she relaxes into it, she's not actually that bad, not for someone her age. Certainly better than Leo. She has a natural rhythm, even if she doubts herself. He even gets her to smile, and he feels like he's won in the lottery. At one point, he stands on his feet and holds onto his hands as he moves them around. He feels it like a burn against his skin. He can practically see that smile at the corner of his eye, but he refuses to look at him. He doesn't know what will happen if he gets the full force of whatever expression Lance is wearing, and honestly, he's scared to find out. When their time slot is up, Lance gets the kids over their disappointment quickly by promising milkshakes. They pack up quickly, charging out of the room and toward the stairs, chatting excitedly amongst themselves. Lance hangs back, shouting at them to be careful going down the stairs and not to run. He falls into step beside Keith. They walk slowly down the stairs and hearing the kids' voices echo up and all around them in the stairwell. The silence stretches between them, but Keith can't tell if it's awkward or comfortable. Then he feels a touch against his hand. Stephens his long, warm fingers hesitantly slide down his wrist, across his palms, gently prying open his fingers before slipping between them. Lance squeezes his hand before relaxing, not pulling away, and letting their hands hang fingers loosely intertwined. Thanks, he says, soft and full of far too much emotion that Keith doesn't want to name. He doesn't know if Lance is thanking him for a productive practice, or if he's thanking him for being okay that the kids were there, or if he's thanking him for helping Maria. He doesn't know, but as he turns to look at Lance, sees the expression of his face, so gentle and open, and depths of dangerous emotion in his eyes, Keaton knows one thing for certain. He really freaking likes Lance. Couldn't even imagine that, focus. Damn it, focus! Have you ever feel like that he met all the other families out there? Because Lance had his own families with 3 kids. one for himself, one for everybody. So hanging out, Keith had been hanging out with Lance and his 3 kids, just hanging out. It's all family, so trying to teach themselves how to dance, and that's where everything goes up, and that's how they teach themselves, all the kids, how to teach themselves fans. Every single family, dancing is probably the one thing you could even achieve, because I too dance and everybody else dances because we're really good at it. No matter what music comes by or what we listen to, it's just there. And family's our priority, and we could dance. Every one of us, even your family, dances too as well. For most people, but not others. Okay. Lance has created a new group chat. Titanic, take me. Lance had added Honk and Pidge. You guys know the movie Titanic? Yes, Lance. I've been alive in the past 20 years. Just making sure you didn't live under a rock. Oh, I do. But usually things as big as Titanic find their way under here. Oh man, you're not about to suggest we watch it, are you? That movie always make me cry. Right at the scene where the mom tucks the kids into bed and die. Same. I didn't know you were even capable of crying. It's been known to happen. I'll believe it when I see it. I hope that never happens. Hey, I'm great at handling criers. I give the best comfort hugs. Sure, that's huh? You're right. Second best. I bet Shiro gives good hugs. I bet he does. Big old ripped bear teddy bear hugs. He does, can confirm. 2, never call him a bear again. For those of you who don't know what bear is, bear is basically like a big ton of muscles and everything like that, and they have like a big stronger muscles. It's just like Shiro, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to go further in information. But he is. I would burn my face in his bare titties. Blocked. Hard, same. Blocked. Twice. Combo. Come on, it's not often that I meet a man who can envelope me in a long embrace. Let me rest on that man's soft pill like titties. Fair. Still blocked. Bro. Embrace. Bro brace. A bro hug. A bug. My favorite kind of insect. So was there a reason you brought up Titanic before we delved too far down the bro rabbit hole? The bro-bit hole. Right. Okay, so you know in Titanic when a boat is going ass side up and that one guy falls and breaks his legs on the propeller, then goes into a 360 spin like 15 minutes before hitting freezing water face first? Of course. That's my favorite part. That's me. That's a metaphor of my life. I'm in too deep. I'm drowning. Titanic, take me. Oh no. Oh jeez. What happened, buddy? Keith. Keith happened. Ah, of course. It's always Keith. Shut the fuck up. It's not always Keith. And Pidge sent 3 times in the image. Stop. And then Pidge sent an image. Honk sent an image twice. And then Pidge sends an image again. And then Honk sends an image. Need any more screenshots? Choke. I'm always about Keith lately. I can't remember the last time you complained about something that wasn't Keith related. Is this about your routine? No? Yes? Kinda. Articulate. I thought you fixed things between you two. Or did I imagine that? Was that a fever dream? You didn't imagine it. Lance rambled to us the night before after they patched things up. It was taco night and he was so caught up in talking about it that he cut his finger while cutting onions. Right. Cool. Well, not cool that you cut yourself, but like, cool that I didn't imagine that, and cool that you guys patched things up. But if you already fixed it, what's the problem now? Everything! Mood? But really, if you want our help, which I assume you do seeing as you're telling us here and not in the group chat, you're gonna need to be a little more specific. I'm losing control of my life. I think. I think I have a crush on Keith. No, scratch that. I do have a crush on Keith. Guys, come on. This is serious. I can't believe this. Holy. Right? Hunk, he's actually admitting it. Screenshot this before he deletes it. Already on it. Guys, what the... Lance, we're your best friends. We know you have a crush on Keith for a while now. And you're not exactly subtle about it. I'm just glad that you're finally able to admit it. I'm proud of you. Same. I was pretty sure this was going to be another Shiro/Olo situation. Glad it's not. I'm not sure I could be gentle with you idiots. What do you mean? You'd known for a while? This is a new thing. Baby steps. Pidge, let me have this. You know he comes to terms with things in his own time. You know what? This conversation is cancelled. Lance, come back. Gush to us about your crush. Dear God, no. Bye. But would that be really weird? Is that Lance is definitely admitted it. He definitely admitted it to his own crush. I mean, he has a crush of Keith, and Bidge and Hung don't know what to do, and they're friends. They're trying to be as simple as possible, and they can't get a feeling for it. What could that be, his mojo? Keith has started a new conversation with Pidge. Pidge, I need a favor, but you can't ask questions. Suspicious, Kogani. Very suspicious. But I'm curious, so I'll bite. But it'll cost you. Don't you owe me a favor? I'm pretty sure you owe me a favor. Nice try, Keith. But I keep a running tally of all favors owed and received. Right now, we're on neutral ground. Care to go into debit? Fine. Excellent. So, what can I do for you? Have you pulled the footage from the other day? What footage? From Altea. From my freestyle lesson with Lance. Is that what this is about? Dude, no. I didn't pull it. But you said, yeah, I said I was going to because I was teasing you. I didn't mean it though. I may be an ass sometimes, but this was a big deal to you. I'm not gonna pull footage to make fun of you when you're finally getting out of your comfort zone and trying... Wow. What? Nothing. That's just not what I expected. You have so little faith in me. Who are you? And what you have done with Pidge? Ha! Ha! Funny. I'm busting a gut over here. You're getting soft. Okay, I resent that. It's not a bad thing. I think our friends are making me soft too. Yeah, they do that. So, was that what you were worried about? Because I'm not gonna go around sharing it. I don't care about how good or bad you are as long as you come to dance off with us. I appreciate that. A lot. Thanks, Pidge. No problem, Keith. It's what friends are for. But that's actually the favor I was going to ask. Oh? Consider my interest piqued. I was wondering how easy it would be for you to hack into the security system at the studio. Very easy. And access the video archive. Again, easy. Do you want me to pull the video? Not exactly. I want you to delete it. Wow, that bad, huh? Can you do it? Can I? Yes. Easily. Will you? Well, since you asked so nicely, I suppose I can look into it. And don't watch it. What? Don't watch it. Let me get this straight. You want me to go into the studio's archives, find a video from the practice several days ago. A video which, I might add, no one will probably ever see because no one really goes back to watch the security vids unless they have to. Delete said video. And you expect me to do this without giving into the temptation to watch it to find out whatever embarrassing nugget has your pennies in the twist. Is that correct? Yeah, pretty much about it. You still want me to, despite me saying that no one really ever goes back to look at them? Yeah. I'd rather be safe than sorry. This must be pretty bad. Do you beef it? What? You know, like fall on your face or something? Oh, no. What do you think I meant? Nothing. So, will you do it? Yes, but you owe me 2 favors. What? Why? One for deleting the video and one for not watching it. And I'm cashing in one right now. I want a 20-piece nugget meal from McDonald's. Now? Yes, I'm as deep in research for my thesis. I'm running on 5 cups of cheap coffee from our busted-ass coffee maker. And I'm eating today was a half-thawed waffle. Half-thawed? Yes, I was impatient. Don't erupt. After this, I have assignments to grade for the class. 1 TA 4 and Hunk has a late tab tonight, so he won't be here to feed me anytime soon. How are you a functional person? I'm towing the line, Keith. Towing the line. Point is, I want some goddamn nugs before I go insane. So you gonna hook me up or what? Fine, I'll leave in 20. Sweet. How soon can you delete the video? I'll do it now. Shouldn't take long. Thanks, Pidge. No problem. Oh my god. Keith. What the... What? Oh no. You watched the video. Of course I watched the video. You said you wouldn't. I know, but you can't dangle this in front of me and expect me not to be curious. I'm a scientist, Keith. Curiosity is what we do. It leads to discovery and all that and I did not want to discover this. I told you not to. I know, but did you really expect me to listen? I was hoping you would. Well, now we both learned a fucking lesson then. I can't believe you made me fucking watch that. I didn't make you do anything. I told you not to. I'm scarred for life. Did you watch the whole thing? No, but I saw enough to get the idea. How long has this been going on? I don't know. You don't know? Weeks? Weeks. You really had no idea? No. Yeah. You two flirt all the time, and the sexual tension is thick enough to choke a man. But JFC, it's this far along already? You got some explaining to do, Kogani. I want a sundae with my nugs now. Extra fudge. You watched it? I don't owe you anything. You owe me for pain and suffering. And if you want me to keep this secret, fine. Good. Now get your ass over here. Oh, damn. Pidge got some little feisty thing to do. You wanna explain yourself, huh, Pidge? Explain yourself with all these kind of a little scrutinizing ideas and all things. And she knows what they know. Knows what he doesn't know. Oh my god, Pidge, you're a son of a can because... Wait, Pidge is a girl. Damn it. Anyways, let's just get back to the story. Group chat. Titanic. Take me. Guys, I'm going to die. What if... are you? Oh my god, you're both busy, aren't you? Holy... This is the time we both have labs, isn't it? Guys, I need you. I made a mistake. Two mistakes, maybe three. One, I convinced Keith to get Snapchat. Two, I accidentally started a conversation with him now when he's at the gym, and now he's sending me sweaty gym selfies. Three, I sent him one back of me shirtless because I decided that was a good idea. I don't know what's wrong with me. Keith makes my brain all fuzzy, and I stop making good decisions. He hasn't replied in like 15 minutes, and I'm freaking out. Oh my god, he just sent me one back. I just saw the notif. I'm too scared to. Okay, Okay, okay. I'm gonna do it. It's a pic of him smiling, and it just says, cute. Oh, this boy's going to be in death of me. Scratch that. I'm already dying. Guys, come back. I'm having a crisis. He's so pretty, and it's getting in my head. He's pretty and perfect and funny and kind and an soul. And oh god, I didn't mean for this to happen. I don't know what to do. Oh god, I feel sick. Can one of you call me like ASAP, please? Nodrill, code white. Thanks for calling me earlier, buddy. Sorry about that and being a mess and stuff. And dragging you out of class. Dude, it's fine. You needed me, and that's what friends are for. Everyone just thought I was in the bathroom for like 15 minutes. My professor gave me a really sympathetic look when I came back. I shouldn't laugh at that, but I'm sorry, buddy. LMAO, no offense taken. It was pretty funny. Seriously though, buddy. You doing alright? Better, yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to get worked up about it. No problem, dude. Really. But like, now that you calmed down, can I say something about it? I guess. Is it really such a bad thing that you have a crush on Keith? Yes, it's terrible. But why? 'Cause it just is. What we have right now is nice. I like what we have. It's not messy. Feelings are messy. I hate to break it to you, buddy, but it already sounds messy. Yeah, but okay, how about this? Would it make you happier if you guys were together? Like, actually together? I mean, yeah, probably, definitely. But it's not the simple, hunk. Why not? It's just not. What if he doesn't feel the same way? What if he'd rather just be friends with benefits? Things would get awkward after that. Maybe just stop altogether. I don't want to lose what we have just because I can't keep my emotions in check. Wait. You guys are friends with benefits? Oh. Not the point, hunk. Okay. For the sake of keeping this conversation going, I'm gonna say this for later. But you're not off the hook. You have a lot of explaining to do. I'll make you cookies while you talk. You got a deal. But back to the point. Just judging down from the way you guys act around each other, I don't think that's that far-fetched to think he might like you back. Especially if you guys are already friends with benefits. But what if he doesn't? But what if he does? I don't want to ruin things, hunk. Regionals is only a couple months away. If things get awkward, our dancing could suffer for it. This means a lot to me, and doing well at regionals could jumpstart my dancing career. I don't really want to throw that away for feelings. Not again. Lance, he is not Naima. I know, but no buts. I got vibes from Naima. I don't get vibes from Keith. I know the situation is different, but the principle is the same. I gave up a shot at being an actual dance troupe, and I gave it up to stay in town with Naima, only for her to take the opportunity instead. I put myself on the back burner for her because I thought what we had was real, and that turned out great. What she did was she, Lance. But we talk about this, and Keith isn't Naima. As long as you guys actually talk about it and are on the same page, I don't think there'll be a problem. I had a casual fling with Naima and blew it up in my face. What's to stop that from happening with Keith? Because with Naima, you assume it was deeper and she didn't. That is exactly why you should talk to Keith about it, so you guys can be on the same page. Or I can just not assume it's something more than it is, and we won't have a problem. But it could be deeper, or it could ruin everything. Lance, I love you, but you need to stop hiding. It's clear to anyone with eyes that you guys care about each other. I don't want to see you ruin your chances with happiness just because someone hurt you in the past. I'm just cautious. I know, buddy, but no risk, no reward. Oh my god. Hello, Pidge. Welcome to the Lance Crisis Center. Yeah, I can see that. I got a classified 1,000,005 messages waiting for me, and it took me 84 years to read through them. Hitch, by the way, want to meet at campus for lunch? Yeah. Pizza? The one by the library or the one in the main cafeteria? The library, definitely. The other one is balls, like 50% of the time. Truth. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm glad you were able to calm Lance down, and I'm glad Lance is feeling better. Sorry I didn't see it in time to help. Thanks, bitch. It's no problem, really. Hunk saw it, and I'm good now. That being said, I can't believe you head over in heels for Keith's flat ass. Keith's ass is not flat. An autobiography. I love that your autobiography, meaning a biography about yourself, is mostly about Keith's ass. What can I say? I can't let Pidge spread lies. Thanks for improving my point. I also wanted to say that I really don't think you have anything to worry about. I highly encourage you to listen to Honk. That's suspiciously encouraging. What do you know? Wait a second. You weren't surprised by the friends with benefits thing? Still a subject we need to have to talk about. Just saying. I'm still kind of freaking out about that, and I'm keeping myself in check for your sake. Appreciate it, buddy. Pidge, explain yourself. Has Keith talked to you about this? Oh my god. He has, hasn't he? What did he say? What do you know? I know a lot of things. I know that the average airspeed velocity of an unladen European swallow is about 24 miles per hour. I know that alligators can't run in zigzags. I know that there is enough DNA in the vanished person's body to stretch from the sun and Pluto and back 17 times. I know that the sky is blue and water is wet and Honk is late for lunch. Sorry. There was a really cute dog on campus and I got to pet her. Acceptable. I also know that there is a very little reason for you to be nervous about your feelings, Lance. That you should probably tell Keith about them. I have questions. Sorry, I can't hear you. Bad connection. I'm going through a tunnel. Gonna go have lunch. Bye. Pidge, get back here. Oh my god. We all had it coming, my friend. We all had it coming. So basically, they got up and put in themselves, and Lance just feel like he's very crazy. He can't stop thinking about Keith in his mind. And Honk here, they should listen to Honk, because Honk has a very big teddy bear, Honk, right? Honk needs to let Lance calm down, so that he has to go live with it. He has to get through everything. But giving it to something personal, not giving the person to try to calm down and just get relaxed. So, can't get worried about it. Alora has created a new group chat. Keith. And Alora had added Keith and Shiro. Keith, where are you? You. Keith, I am so sorry. Shut it. We have conversations. What is happening right now? I've had a little too much to drinky. What? This is okay though. Can you understand me? Um, I think so. Good. I'm so sorry. What's going on? We were at the bar with some coworkers, and Loris had a little too much to drink, and now she's hiding in the women's restroom, where I can't follow her to take away her phone. Gotcha. Unfortunately, she's gotten to a shot contest with one of the others, and she goes hard. Are you not drinking? No, I'm the DD. I'm not hard. I'm a bit soft. I'm always soft. Wow, that was good. That was astonishing. I should really screenshot all this for Kitchen Lands. No! You can't use that against me. I should go to the back Yes, please come back and drink some water. Please, don't let her have any more drinks. Wasn't planning on it. I'm not gonna do that tonight. I got cushion function tomorrow. Cushion function? Cushion function. Lance will kill me if I don't screenshot this for him. Speaking of aunts. Oh no. Allura, please leave me alone. No. He does that we should hello him. Zero? Zero. Please just leave the conversation. No. Stay. Okay. It's okay. Keith, Chef and I were talking. Do you like hunts? I'm pretty indifferent about Lays. No, stupid phone. Lawns. Do you like lawns, not Lays? Now get Keith? Oh no. Baby, come back. Keith, I'm sorry about spraying this on you. We were just talking about it, and Allura insisted that we just ask you, and she ran off to the bathroom before I could take her phone from her. I just wanted to help. I don't think ambushing him while you're drunk is helping, babe. Point. But now we're here. Keeps, please, come back. I'm here. So, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, Keith. Shiro, but out. What brought this up? He half us back. Shiro? Somehow we got on the topic of you and Lance, and Laura said she bet you liked him, and then ran out before I could stop her. I told her that she shouldn't push you, that you come to us when you wanted to. Is it really that obvious? Kinda. You don't really do subtle. Not when someone knows you well enough to read you. You guys are so cute. So, does that mean you do like Lance? Please don't say anything. Aww. We won't. Don't worry. Are you going to do anything about it? I don't know. I think you should. You're not really a great example for telling someone how you feel, Shiro. Ooh, Bont. Bont. There we got. You're just as bad. Rude. I know we're not, but I still think you should tell him. That sounds like a terrible idea. What's the worst that could happen? He could not feel the same way. Things could get really awkward. He could start treating me differently. Everything we worked for as dance partners could be ruined. We crash and burn at regionals. Okay, point taken. But what if he does like you too? That's just as frightening. Oh, Keith. I'll give you that. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable to another person is terrifying, but it's also exhilarating and it's worth the risk. Aw, babe, I love you. Oh, found some gum in my paws. Gummies. God, they taste so good. After gross, Shiv. I don't really think you have anything to worry about. I've seen how Lance looks at you, especially when he thinks no one is paying attention. Really? I wouldn't push you to do something that would hurt you, Keith. Trust me? Okay, but I don't know. Telling him could just ruin everything. It'll certainly change things, but change isn't always a bad thing, I guess. Just think about it, okay? You don't need to make a decision right now. Okay. Cheryl, I don't know if I can walk. Can you meet me by the bathroom door? Come in. We'll talk later. Okay, Keith? Okay. And sorry again for all this. Sorry, Keith. Keithy. I love you guys so much. My fans are not responding. Go drink some more, Laura. Yes, sir. How could... Oh my god, what the hell is this? How could Laura be this much drunken? How many drinks did she take? But on the other side of the note, that Cheryl wants Keith to just talk to Lance because he had been thinking about it this all the time. It's just going into that much of the power, and that's where everything goes well most certainly. But that's just getting started, and that's where all goes. It's something else. So that's probably trying to get into this thing. Pitch, you having the boniest ass known to man, Lance complains, jabbing Devin aside to get them to move a little to the side. This proves to be a mistake as they jump and elbow him in the chest. Ow! You're one to talk, they grumble, and you can hear the roll of their eyes. I do not have a bony ass. You kinda do, buddy, Honk says, from the front passenger seat, and Lance gasps. I'd lost circulation in my legs before from Lance sitting on my lap, Laura adds from her perch on Cheryl's lap on the other side of the back seat. Betrayal! His eyes narrow as he catches sight of Keith's smirk. You can tell he's trying hard to keep it down, but it isn't exactly working. I need your sass, Keith. He glances at him sideways, without really moving his head, lips quirking just a fraction more. Lance is embarrassed by how his heart rate picks up from something so simple. I wasn't going to say anything. Their German situation is less than ideal. Pitch was able to get hold of their parents' van like the last time they had gone to the club, so they had to make do. They could have gone in separate cars, but it had become somewhat of tradition to carpool together. Team vibes or something. It usually wasn't too big of a deal, but they had one extra body this time around. And to be honest, it's still not a big deal. It's just not the deal that Lance was hoping for. When he was hoping for was to get Keith on his lap, unfortunately he couldn't get that without arousing suspicion among their group. Pitch, being the smallest, is obviously the first choice for lap sitting. Then Cheryl and Laura are dating, so it only makes sense that she would take Cheryl's lap, which means there's no reason for Keith to be on his lap unless he wants him to be. Which he does, but he's not about to say that aloud or make a big deal of it. Especially not now that Pitch and Hunk know how he feels. He doesn't want to sit through the car ride with a boner fuel on his lap and his friends, sending amused looks his way. So maybe it's better this way. But he's not exactly happy that he got the grandma on his lap instead of his hot sort of friends with benefits, but also crushing. But he doesn't know how to tell him because that could ruin everything. He doesn't want to ruin friendship or partnership. And oh God, he's a mess. Nearly there, lads. Corinne announces, taking a turn down the road where the warehouse is. Everyone ready to destroy the competition? Lance ends up, grinning, spreading his lips. We should change our team name to Vortron because we're about to devour the competition. The car is filled with a pleasant mix of groans and snickers that has Lance grinning. Lance, no, Honk says. Twitch Pitch follows up when excited. Lance, yes. I take back every negative thing I said about your bony ass, Lance says, exchanging a fist bump with Pitch. We're not calling ourselves that, she says. But Laura is hiding a smile behind her hand and from her perch on his lap. Keith hasn't said anything yet, so Lance nudges him with his elbow. He nestles into the middle seat in the back, pressed up nicely to Lance's side and thigh. What do you think, Keith? He prompts, mischievous smile tugging at his lips. Keith rolls his eyes, but there's a shadow of a smile on his lips. And even though he says, I think you're an idiot, it's said in a way that feels far more fond than he probably intended. No, Corinne says from the driver's seat, face tapping on the steering wheel as they wait to the red light. Back in my day, we just called it cannibalism. When the light turns green, it's only 20 more seconds before they're pulling into the parking lot. It's crowded, but they find a spot near the back. As soon as they parked, Lance unlocks the door and throws it open, nearly toppling Pitch out the door. They manage to catch themselves, but flip Lance off as they stand. He just grins, unfolding himself in the backseat and stepping out onto the pavement. Stretching his arms high above his head, a smile playing on his lips, he looks around. Cars are still pulling up into the parking lot, and there's a steady stream of people headed toward the building. There's a wide variety of dress going on. A lot are dressed like a regular club night. Others are dressed clearly for dance. A similar few are dressed in somewhat matching outfits. Other teams, much like them, who like having the feel of a unified aesthetic. Their own aesthetic is simple. Everyone is dressed in black with highlights of their collars in the form of a wide set V on their shirts and a bandana tied somewhere on their person. The finishing touches are the little V's of a face paint drawn on below each eye in their individual collars. Lance himself is wearing his favorite solid black harem pants, his bright blue bandana tied above the knee on his right leg. His tank top is black and tight, showing off his arms and lean chest. A wide blue V printed across the front of it. He feels good. He knows he looks good. And when he caught Keith checking him out before they piled into the car, icing on the cake. Keith isn't really playing fair himself. His shirt is simple, forming fitting V-neck, a wide red V printed across the front, and his red bandana tied around his wrists. His pants, however, are what are the current source of Lance's pleasure and suffering. They're black, tight, and have horizontal rips up the length of the front from shin to thigh, letting those slits of his pale skin peek through. It's too damn much for Lance's poor heart to take. Man, I miss this place, Honk says, coming to stand next to Lance, hands on his hips as he looks across the parking lot at the building. Honk has on loose sweatpants and a sleeveless tunic shirt with a few stylish rips, hem falling just below his hips. His bright yellow bandana is tied around his forehead, taking the place of his usual favorite headbands. You sure you weren't just missing a certain tall, curvy, bodacious babe? Lance says, slyly, elevating Honk's side. Honk tries to frown. He really does. Lance can see the effort he makes, but he just can't hold back his smile as he lightly shoves Lance away. Yeah, he says, maybe that too. She's been all he's been able to talk about since she got back from studying abroad, Pitch says, standing up on Honk's other side, arms crossed over their chest. They tilt their head to the side, thoughtful to look on their face. Actually, no. He talked about her a lot before then, too, but it's only gotten worse. Pitch, like the rest of them, is dressed in all black. Their loose cargo shorts reach nearly halfway down their shins. Their shirt has short sleeves and a wide green V across the front, but the bottom half of it has been messily cut off, revealing peaks of their thin waists and well-defined abs. The banana is tied around their upper arm, extra fabric sticking out and looking almost like green rabbit ears. Ooh, are we talking about Shay? Oliver says, popping up between Lance and Honk. Forcing Lance to step away to make room. She drapes her arms around Honk's shoulders, leaning her cheek against his arm as she sighs happily. I love that girl. Her steady trip was good. She pokes him roughly in the side. You should bring her around more. Alora's silver hair is pulled back into a high ponytail, causing it to cascade in heavy waves down her back, shifting with every movement of her head. Her yoga pants cling to her hips and thighs, flaring up around her calves. Large pink banana tied around her waist. Her shirt had once been like Pidge's, but were Pidge chopped off the bottom half. Alora had taken the scissors to her shirt's collar, giving a wider top that clung to her upper arms and left her shoulders exposed. A pink V decorates the front of it. Leave the poor boy alone, Joe says. The teasing lit to his voice as he comes beside them, Keith close to his side. Show's outfit consisted of black track pants and a muscle tank that had armholes wide enough to stretch down his sides, revealing glimpses of a ripped chest go with his ripped arms. His wide set V is purple, and a purple bandana is tied to his prosthetic arm, right below the elbow joint. His smile stretched wider, showing teeth as his eyes glinted mischievously. Though, if you want the name of some good restaurant to take her to catch up, Allura and I can name a few. Allura sniggers, burying her smile on Honk's arm as he groans, head lolling back. Lance grins, looking around the circle until his eyes settle on Keith. His attention is on Honk. Small smile on his lips, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. There's a tension there, around his eyes and mouth. His arms are crossed over his chest, clenched fists hidden behind his biceps. Shoulders hike a little too high. As much as I do love teasing our dear Honk about his sweet young love, Coran said, with a flourish poking his head into the group. Honk makes noise of protest, but Krang ignores him. Dressed in tight black leggings, a long black tunic shirt falling to his thighs. Krang's V is orange, and his orange bandana is tied around his neck. He leans his elbow on Pidgeot's head, ignoring their disgruntled noise as he leans his weight onto them. He holds up his other hand, finger extended. We should really get going. We have to sign in soon if we want a slot in the competition. Karen leads the way, and the rest of them fall in step as they weave through the parking lot. Key, Lance notices, hangs back, head to the gaze, up at the building, apprehension crawling across his features. Lance pats Honk's arm and lets his steps slow, falling back to Keith's side. He doesn't think twice before slinging an arm around Keith's shoulders, pulling him to his side, in a gesture that could easily be seen as friendly had it not been for the way Keith seems to melt against him. That, and the erratic slam of his heart against his ribcage when it happens. What's shaking, Klaus Jepson? Keith tilts his head toward him, lips pursed into that low frown that Lance is growing incredibly fond of. Who's that? He shrugs, waving his free hand around vaguely. Not really sure. Some guy with a mullet. Keith turns back forward, humming softly. Lance tightens his grip just a fraction, giving a light shake before relaxing. You doing alright? Yes, voice low and private, letting concern leak onto his tone. Keith shrugs. I'm fine. You ready? As I'll ever be, Keith says, lips quirking into a wry smile. Lance Chuck lean toward him to knock their heads together. You'll do fine. You're a lot better than you think you are. Just stop thinking so much about it and just dance. He feels Keith take a deep breath, shoulders rising with it, and holding before he lets it out before a stirring exhale. I'll try. You got this. I know you do. Lance says, confident and sure. He stares at Keith until he glances sideways at him. When he finally makes eye contact, Lance winks, lips curling into a playful smirk. And if you f***ed up, at least you look damn good doing it. Keith snorts, rolling his eyes and shoving Lance off him hard enough to make him stumble sideways, snickering. Keith speds up, stumping away to walk beside Cheryl, but Lance can see the small smile playing across his lips in the fading sunlight. The Balmera dance-off is held not too far from the Balmera Club. They own a warehouse a couple blocks over and refurbish it for different events. And for this one, they usually go all out, bringing in a banging stereo system, DJ booth, a whole stage for the dance-off to take place on tables, chairs, bars, and not to mention the plethora of decorations. They essentially turned the empty warehouse into a club with its own. The dance-off used to be held once a month. Teams can sign up and participate, and the winners are announced at the end of the night, with prizes for first and second place. And it's not just about the dance-off. The whole building operates as a club, giving patrons bars, sitting areas, and dance sections to have fun in and relax between official dance battles. It's an awesome atmosphere that used to be what Lance looked forward to every month. It was a chance to not only cut loose and relax, but he got to dress up with his friends and they got to dance together as a team. He loves it. The camaraderie, the showmanship. He loves when his friends standing tall and confident together, staring down the competition. It's all about being in the spotlight and pumping up the crowd. And those are two things that Lance excels at. He loves it more when they win, which, given past experiences quite often. What can you say? Voltron is legendary. There are two lines leading to two different entrances. They steer past the line by the bigger doors and head for the smaller one off to the side. And there's a sign hanging up outside that says Team Signups. They all shop in. Pressed in close, they try to stand in line with several other teams, while simultaneously trying to keep out of the way. They all had to fill out their own forms, passing around clipboards and pens, before passing them all back to Cran to be clipped together with their team form. They pay the entrance fee, and they're all given a wristband before being shooed into the club to make way for the next team. Cran leads the way, Allura at his side, as they cut through the crowd. And boy, it is crowded. It's the first dance up in nearly half a year. Shay had been one of the biggest organizers of the event, and it was basically her idea, baby. It essentially stopped when she had gone to study abroad, much to her dismay, but mostly honks, for different reasons. They attempted to stick close and followed through the wake left behind Cran and Allura before the crowd closed back up. Shiro sticks close behind it, and Pish hovers behind his mask, one hand holding onto the back of his shirt. Hunk comes up close behind him, and Lance sticks close to his side. He's always been good at weaving through a crowd. Being thin and agile helps. Lets him slip and weave through people with minimal contact and without having to push them aside. Keith, however, struggles a little bit more when Lance glances back at him. Keith looks completely overwhelmed. He's trying to keep up, but his eyes are everywhere, attention drifting and flinching as possible to get too close, glaring at people who bump into him and shoving others who shove him first. He looks thoroughly disgruntled. Lance smiles, affection fluttering his chest. He knows this isn't really Keith's thing. Definitely not his crowd. But he's here anyway because he wants to be, because he wants to spend time with them, because he wants to be part of the team, taking pity on them. Lance reaches out, grabbing his wrist and tugging him forward until he's situated right behind Honk, able to use the big guy as a shield and a bulldozer through a crowd. Keith sends him an appreciative look that quickly turns sheepish as he slips the wrist out of Lance's grip, shifting it so his hand slides to Lance. Fingers hesitantly lacing together. Lance looks away to hide a smile. Karan blesses his soul, drags them all to the bar near the back, where the crowd are thinner, and orders 7 shots of their biggest bourbon. The bartender looks at him like he's grown a second mustache in front of his eyes, bugging out of his head and mouth twisting in confusion. Karan just grins, staring him down and confirms his order. The bartender gives them all questioning looks, but they just shrug and shrugs back before returning to fill the order. Karan pays for all 7 shots, and Lance chokes when he hears total before dripping himself over Karan's shoulders and thanking him loudly and dramatically. Karan just hums, amusement tugging at his lips as he pats Lance on the back. When they all have a shot glass in hand, standing in a loose circle around the bar, Karan lifts his and they all follow suit. To Voltron friendship, teamwork, and the spirit of dance. The echo to Voltron and varying degrees of enthusiasm before done their shots. They all take it with different kinds of skill. Lori slams her glass down, face twisted and eyes watering, but otherwise fine. Cheryl cups once, then looks at his glass, nodding appreciatively. Hitch bends over in a cupping fit with muttered curses, while Hunk pats them on the back. Cupping the cup tongue, so is it. Lance throat burns, shot selling warm and pleasant in his stomach, even as his mouth twists with taste. Not really a bourbon fan, but this is a time-honored tradition. He makes a face, brow scrunching and dragging his tongue along the roof of his mouth and across his teeth, mouth riffing as he tries to shake it off. Keith, on the other hand, raises his eyebrows, nods a couple of times, smacks his lips, and calmly passes his shot glass to Shiro. Curran takes the damn thing like a champ, sipping at it calmly and peacefully, like he were at the wine tasting. Good. They still have 40 minutes before they had to be in position, and Curran makes sure they knew that before dismissing them. Hitch and Shiro split off on the ground to hunt down Matt, who's been hired as DJ for the event. Elder leans up against the bar with Curran. They share a double shot of bourbon on the rocks, both of them sipping at it. Their conversation ends in private, but it's at the volume that Lance finds hard to hear over the music unless he cozy up next to him. So he takes up a position next to Hunk. Off to the side of the bar, Hunk's eyes scan the crowd as they talk, and it doesn't take long for Lance to realize who is he looking for. At this, a sly smile makes its own on his lips, and he leans to his friend, eager to tease but also to help. Hunk takes it in all in stride, a light blush coloring his cheeks as he laughs nervously but genuinely. The warehouse floor plan is wide open. One big room that encompasses everything. There are bars on either end and tables and chairs set up along the edges. The center of the warehouse is taken up by a large square raised stage where the dance-off will take place. Matt's stage is booth nestled off to the side of it. The walls and ceiling are high, and there's a second floor balcony halfway up, providing more watch points for the competition event. The entire decoration scheme is much like the Bomero Club. The lighting is colored and dim, glowing out from lanterns that hang from the ceiling and look like crystals. More strings of crystal-looking lights, custom-made crawl-up pillars, and walls around the warehouse. It gives the whole place a cozy vibe, like a wide-open cavern. Music Italy thumps from the speakers and spread out around the building, vibrating through the air and up through the floor. Lance feels it in the soles of his feet, reverberating throughout his body, with chasing his heartbeat onwards. He's excited. He can feel the anticipation like buzz in his veins, like a tangible energy that thrives in the very air of the warehouse. He can feel it against his skin, the excitement, the nerves, the eagerness, the thrill. He's practically bouncing with it, unable to stand still. His body feels like a cold wire, tension building, ready to be sprung. He's hyped, focused everywhere, awareness sprawled out across the club as he only partly pays attention to his banner with Hunk. It's natural, comfortable, and superficial. Anyway, both of them too distracted for anything deeper. His eyes flit across people, collars, lights, drinks, the stage, everything, unable to latch onto anything in particular before moving on. Then he feels a presence at his side, a body pressed in close but barely touching, arms drifting across each other as they breathe, sending sparks shooting across the skin. Instantly, his focus snaps into the sensation, abandoning everything else in the club as he turns his head, eyes zeroing on Keith. He's standing close, leaning toward Lance in a way that seems more subconscious than anything. His eyes dart around the club warily, posture uncomfortable and nervous. His vinyl lip is caught between his teeth, and Lance has the ridiculous urge to put his thumb there, to press against it until Keith relaxes to release it. Then maybe steal a kiss or two. Instead, he reaches out, stretching his fingers as they catch on Keith's, curling them again to pull Keith's hand to his. Keith jerks, head snapping over to stare at Lance with wide, startled eyes. Lance just smiles, small and private as he gives Keith's fingers a small squeeze. Keith relaxes instantly, abused lip released from his teeth as he offers back an unconvincing and shaky smile. But his shoulders relax a little, and Lance counts that as a win. They look away, but their hands slip more firmly together. Hey, buddy, look, Lance says, leaning to Hunk's side and elbowing his arm. He points to the crowd. There it is! Hunk's head whips around so fast that Lance is sure can hear it crack. Eyes go wide and frantic. Postures stiffly. Where? There. She's by the stage, standing tall and towering over most. A wide smile is on her face, and as she talks to a few people in front of her, she has a clipboard in her hands and a sash across her chest that indicates she's a judge. What are you waiting for, dude? Go say hi, Lance says, doing what he can to push at his friend with only one arm. Cause he sure isn't going to let go of Keith's hand. Unfortunately, Hunk isn't budging an inch, solidly planted and unmoving. I don't know, Lance. She looks kinda busy, and she'll be happy to see you, so go, he says, jabbing more insistently. He finally lets Hunk to go, and he watches with a wide grin as Hunk awkwardly shambles through a crowd, looking stiff and nervous as he goes. Lance chuckles, leaning close enough to whisper in Keith's ear, breath making some of his hair shift. You can see Keith shiver. Want to take pity on him and help me wingman the big guy? I could use all the help I can get. They exchange glances, and Keith is so close and it smells so good. Hell, he looks good too. Looks fucking amazing. And his lips look soft and slightly red from biting him, and so inviting. The red marks beneath his eyes stand out against his pale skin, but highlights his features in a way that's just right. Lance wants nothing more drag him off into the corner of the club and touch and kiss him, feel his body up against his own, and make Keith make those little neat noises that Lance loves so much. But he doesn't. If he does, he's certain they'll miss the start of the competition. Later though. Maybe later. Keith smirks slow and small, mischief crinkling his eyes. He squeezes Lance's hand, tilting his chin up like he just might kiss him, and Lance feels his eyes widen in surprise. Heart thumping painfully in his chest. He doesn't though. Stops just an inch away, perfectly angled but not touching. Lips curl into that devilishly handsome and infuriating smirk. Yeah, it says, eyes dancing with amusement as Lance just grapes. Let's go, he says, pulling away and tugging Lance in the crowd after Honk. Lance whines, making sure it's loud enough for Keith to hear, and he's rewarded with the pearly, beautiful sound of Keith's laughter. Calm down today? Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to feel myself calm down, but they'll probably be excited, and that's totally makes sense right there. And hey, but they're still waiting. They're waiting for this one to dance off, and it's their turn, so probably won't see it right there. And hey, why not? Okay. Next up, we have Voltron versus the Blade of Marmora. The crowd cheers, wordless shouts and screams that the referee has to speak over. He holds his hands out to the sides, gesturing to either side of the stage as the two teams pull themselves up and take up their positions. Lance is the first to the stage, pulling himself up and already waving to the crowd, spinning a little as he does so. Lips spread in a wide grin. He shoots finger guns at particularly loud group of people. They cheer louder, and Lance laughs. Voltron has a reputation here, and he intends to keep it going. They're good, they're personable, they're fun, and they're champions. His friends take to the stage behind him, coming up to stand in a loose and bunched arch. They're all smiling and waving to the crowd as well. Karan scoops Pidge up onto his shoulders, and he makes wide, throwing kissing gestures with his hands while Pidge raises both fists into the air. A group in the crowd starts a chant of flex, 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 and Honk and Cher exchange amused glances before doing just that. The group screams and they laugh. The only one not milking it is Keith. His hunched in on himself look like he's trying to hide behind his hair while also attempting to appear nonchalant with his hands shoved deep in his pockets, while Laura moves to the center of the stage to face off in a thrilling game of rock, paper, scissors with the Marmora's team canton to see who goes first. Lance maneuvers himself to Keith's side. Smile and wave, Keith, he says, bumping his hip against Keith's playfully, but hard enough to make him stumble and earning himself a small glare. He grins wider, crossing his arms loosely over his chest. Don't look so miserable. I'm not, he says, but there are shadows in his eyes as he glances around that warehouse. It's just a lot. Lance's smile softens, and he slings an arm around Keith's shoulders, leaning to him and propping his other hand up on his hip. He goes for nonchalance, smile never fading. But he lowers his voice so only Keith can hear. I know, but like I said earlier, you don't actually have to participate if you don't want to. Keith's lips pursed into a small frown, brows furrowing. Lance is certain he's trying to scowl, but it's really nothing more than a pout. But don't we lose points if we don't all dance? Lance shrugs. Yeah, technicality, but literally none of us are going to blame you if you don't feel comfortable enough to. Besides, we can totally carry your sorry ass, he says, lips quirking into a smirk as he lightly squeezes Keith's shoulders. Just hang back, watch us, and if you feel it, jump in. If you don't, don't. Simple as that. Keith sighs, head turning as he looks around the stage. I just wish there weren't so many people. Hey, Lance says, snapping his fingers in front of Keith's face to catch his attention. Keith stares at him, bewildered. Lance holds him with a serious stare. Look out into that crowd right now, and tell me honestly, can you actually see any details? It takes him a moment, but his eyes flicker away, scanning over the crowd. Brows furrowing, Lance just waits. With all the spotlights on the stage and otherwise dim atmosphere in the warehouse, they can't really see much of anything once they're on stage. Not really, Keith says, eyes returning to his, face pinched with confusion. Lance smiles. Exactly up here. Lance smiles. Exactly. Up here, it's easy to ignore everything else except for what's happening. The crowd is just a noise in the background. Just focus on us, the other dancers, and the timer. He leans in close, pushing his forehead to Keith's for just a moment. Letting their noses brush, he can hear Keith's breath hitch, and it makes his chest flutter. If all else fails, he whispers, voice pitched low and just look at me. He pulls back, sending Keith a wink, and biting back a laugh as his face twists up with conflicting expressions. As Lord rejoins them, Lance pulls his arm back and Pitch climbs down for Cran's shoulders. Alright, team, she says, gesturing for them to gather in close. They step into a tight circle, leaning in and putting their arms around each other's shoulders. Keith looks bewildered for a second, sandwiched between Lance and Shiro, but follows their lead. They're going fast, so we got 25 seconds to prepare. I know it's been a while since we've done this, but that's never stopped us before. Just go with your instinct, trust yourselves, give an eye on the timer, and have fun. She sends a very pointed glare his way, and try not to hog the spotlight. Lance grins. Wouldn't dream of it, princess? And Keith, she says, sending the boy at his side a much softer look. Don't feel pressure to jump in if you don't want to. I'm fine to sit out a couple rounds to get the feel of it. Keith gives her a weak smile and nods. Thanks. She nods back, eyes darting around the circle. Everyone ready? They all nod, and their eyes turn back to Lance, lips quirking up the edges. Would you do the honors of leading our chant, Lance? His grin is wide enough that he can feel it crinkle eyes. Of course. Together, they all shift slightly, putting one foot slightly forward into the circle. Keith is just a second behind. Lance leans in for a second. Just follow our lead, Keith, he says, before they're all suddenly moving. They lean into their forward feet, shifting one way, and then lead back, effectively shifting the opposite way. Their small circle goes back and forth, a push and pull. Lance waits for them to build momentum, bodies and heads bobbing up and down with every shift of direction. Then he lifts his head higher than the rest and shouts, I say Vol, you say Tron. Vol, Tron. His friends echo, and he can hear the groups in the crowd doing the same. Vol, Tron. Vol, Tron. They throw up their hands in the air. Once again, we keep a second behind, and the crowd roars as they spread out into a loose arch, facing across the stage at their opponents. The Blade of Marmora is a fairly recent team, but one had been showing up more regularly before the hiatus. The Blade of Marmora is a fairly recent team, but one that had been showing up more regularly before the hiatus. They all wear the same outfit, with all marks masked over their eyes. Other than their body types, they're entirely uniform. They stand in line, legs shoulder width apart, hands clasped behind their backs. It's an intimidation tactic, and Lance knows it, but that doesn't stop it from working. Thankfully, they've been around a block a few times, and all of them thrive in competition. Blade of Marmora, are you ready? The friend recalls, voice echoing through the microphone and out across the crowd. The other team makes a roller shout, all together as one unit. Voltron, are you ready? Woo! They shout together. DJ, let the music play. The band says, stepping back from the center of the stage toward the side and gesturing to Matt's booth. There are a few beats of silence, a crowd dying down, anticipation pounding through Lance's veins alongside adrenaline. The energy and tension around them feels tangible, twisting around his body and making the air thick. He feeds on it, lives on it. He holds his breath without really realizing that he's doing it. Only notices when the music starts up and his lungs start working again. Pitch told that Matt has made specific mix specifically for the dance-off. In an interrupt to please and impress, he becomes a regular at the Bone Club, and he was their first pick to host their first dance-off after the hiatus. To keep things fair, he hasn't let Pitch or any of the rest of the team listen to the songs he makes for tonight, but he promised them that they were all easily to recognize and follow along with. A dance battle is all about adapting and going with the flow, but it loses some of the fun if the twists and turns in the music are too unpredictable. The music starts up and two large clocks positioned behind each team start counting up in bright glowing red numbers. 10 seconds. That's all they have to get the feel for the beat before competition begins. Lance's head is already bobbing, finding the beat quickly, feels it pulsing through the stage beneath his feet, feels in his chest, alongside his heartbeat. The rest of his body starts to follow suit, preparing, coiling, ready to spring. Out of the corner of his eyes, he can see his friends doing the same, each of them feeling the beat in their own ways, suddenly loosening up their bodies, rolling their limbs, feeling it as much as they can before the clock hits 10. When it does, the other team is already in motion. One of them splits immediately from the lineup, going from a standstill to motion flurry of limbs, dramatic arm movements that led momentum to flying legs as they jump and turn, landing in the center of the stage. They move, bold movements, high energy, getting right into the beat of the moment. It has Lance's blood racing, boiling, burning. He's ready. He's so ready. 15 seconds. That's how much time they've each. 15 seconds to dance before the next team takes over. Keep track of time. No one will cue them in. It's up to them to keep watch, to jump in and chase the opponent out, to make their mark and put on a show before they are pushed out of the center. 15 seconds each, back and forth, until the song comes to an end. Songs are tailored by DJs to be a standard and solid 10 minutes and 10 seconds. 40 turns total. 20 turns per team. No physical contact between teams. Up to 2 people can go into the center to dance at a time from the same team. The more people from a team who go in and the more variety they show, the more points. Showmanship, dancing, entertainment. Rile up the crowd, show their stuff, impress. 15 seconds may not sound like a lot, but in the moment, it moves sluggishly slow. Each tick feels like it's winding through molasses, and then all at once, it's over. Push aside to make room for the next person. 15 seconds on the sidelines feels like an eternity. Lance feels each tick in his chest and his limbs, holding them tighter and tighter. Energy bunching, building, revving up. When the clock hits 20 seconds, Lance takes a step forward, knowing that no one on his team will stop him. They all know to let him go first. Knows that he'll practically implode if he doesn't. He glances over his shoulder and catches Keith's eye. He's watching him, not the more dancer in the center of the stage, not the clock. Him, eyes wide and lips parted just slightly. Expression surprise, odd, and something else that Lance hesitates to put a name to but makes his heartbeat pick up nonetheless. Lance cracks a smile and turns, putting his back to the center of the stage. He can see the clock behind their team, but he keeps his eyes on Keith. Keith's smile is small, eyes twinkling with amusement. There's something else there, something that grows as Lance turns cocky, Boone walking backwards as time ticks on. The clock hits 25, and Lance crosses one foot over the other, winks at Keith, then throws himself into a spin, holding his hands up close to his torso. He spins and stops hard, facing the other team, striking a post and holding it for only half a second, just enough to accent the hard stop before he's moving again. The previous dancer is already retreating back to his team, but Lance pays them no mind. This is his time to shine, and he owns it. Feels the lights beating down on his skin, sees a flash of blue beneath his eyes, across his cheeks, feels oddly empowered by it. Hears the crowd like a dull roar rumbling above and below the loud blare of the music, feels the beat beneath his feet, driving him onward, pulsing through him. He sees movement from the memorial side, glances at the clock, sees his time is nearly over. As the next dancer steps up, they stand close, staring him down as he finishes off his set. He doesn't let it distract him. Keeps his performance at high energy right up until the clock hits 40. Then they're moving, dancing, and Lance stumbles backwards away from the center, one hand clutched to his chest and the other reaching out as if shot. He may need to back away and hand over his spotlight, but he'll do it in the style, holding the audience captive the whole way back to his team. The game moves quickly. The other teams seem to have a rotation that they stick to, but Voltron is a lot more relaxed. They don't have a set order, save for Lance prefers spot at first. They go when they feel it. Step forward to claim their next spot. When you feel it, and they all go when they do. They never argue or shove, even when two people step up at the same time. They're a fluid machine of teamwork and energy. The Blade and Momora are good. Lance can't really deny that, but they all have relatively the same style. Big, powerful movements. Sharp and quick, whole bodies getting into acrobatics that are impressive and crowd pleasers. But it's more or less all the same. Different moves, yes, but they start to become repetitive the further on it goes. Voltron has one thing a lot of teens lack: a wide variation of style. Hunk leaps into the stage, wide movements, thumping and arm gestures. He's not afraid to get down with sturdy break dancing moves, and he moves with surprising grace for someone his size. He's not afraid to go up into the handstand, legs angled and kicking as he moves around with the beat. His arms move quickly, wild but coordinated. It's big, it's powerful, it's energetic. It's Hunk. Pitch slides in with movements that are slick and fluid as water, a snake in the grass, suddenly cocking and pulling the trigger as they strikes, sharp and calculated. They can move their body in ways that most people can barely conceive, let alone do. Makes them look robotic, disjointed, shifting into place and moving out of it before anyone can really even think about how it's done. When they're pushed out of the circle, they moonwalk back to the team, tipping an imaginary hat to their opponents. Laura slips into the center with beauty and grace. Her movements are wide and powerful, striking right when she needs to, and easing into the next with grace and poise. There's definitely a ballroom flair to her dancing, and she uses it to her advantage, putting an odd, almost ballet and the spin on hip-hop. It's fascinating, transfixing, and addicting to watch. Shiro charges into the center stage, forcing his opponent out and jumping, falling down into a lot of low movements, showing perfect balance and poise, power and grace, despite his handicap. He's strong with impeccable center balance, and it shows. Quick feet work, rolling onto his hands, elbows locked, feet and legs twisting in the air before he's rolling back onto them. When his time is up, he leaps backwards, leg kicking out, arms being thrown in front of him, crossing. Coran takes to the stage like a bat out of hell, goes from watching with one arm crossed over his chest, lightly stroking his mustache, to a full of ginger fury. He drives into the center stage in a wide sweeping arc, spinning quickly with the music, arms thrown out wide and down on his knees, and toes in quick rapid movements. His dance is energetic, and high-spirited, powerful and memorizing. He spins quickly, arms usually thrown wide, moving quickly with his feet to his knees and back again. He leaps, chest thrown out and knees bent, arms thrown behind him, before landing and immediately taking to his knees before standing again. When he moves, his toes are usually pointed, sweeping across the stage behind him. Quick, rapid moves, powerful stops, warrior ballet, their wild card, a trick up their sleeve, someone who is woolly, so unique, and like anything any other team can bring to the stage. And then there's Lance, everything in between. He's high energy and he's playful, everything and anything, a fluid fit to match any mold, a patchwork style that can't be contained in any particular box. He's the glue that holds the team styles together, the space between the cracks. When he takes to the stage, he feels the moment, goes with what he's inspired by. No one can ever guess what he'll do next, and at the time, he even surprises himself. With 20 turns each, everyone gets to go more than once. They try to keep it even, and sometimes Lance is really fucking feeling it, but he reins himself in to let his friends have a go. Because really, as much as he loves dancing himself, he also loves watching his friends. Gets pumped just watching them have fun. Laughs when they show off and work the crowd. Grabs their shoulders and shakes them with a wide grin, stretching his lips as they come back to the sidelines. There are a few times throughout it all that Lance finds himself at Keith's side again. He doesn't try to be there, but he ends up there nonetheless. Even when his attention is wholly and completely at the center of the stage, even as he's talking to the others, he ends up Keith's side, bumps into him, checks up on him, makes sure he's not about to barf or dart off the stage. Keith stays relatively the same for the first few turns, but as song goes on, as they trade in and out of the center stage, he can tell Keith is relaxing, feels of ease as the moment, catches sight of him smiling and laughing along with their jokes, sees him congratulating and teasing their friends, and when they make eye contact, you can see that a lot of the tension has bled out of his shoulders. Excitement and high at the moment chasing away the shadows in his eyes. And it makes Lance's heart swell and his blood run warm. Because the blade of Mamora started the battle, Voltron turn ends it. He's been counting turns, keeping an eye on the clock. He knows it's coming, the last turn. They need to go out with a bang if they want to be memorable later. And just like it's tradition for Lance to start the whole thing, it's also tradition for him to end it. The clock ticks 5 seconds until the final turn. He takes a step forward, body already pulled tight, anticipating the release. He's uncertain what kind of dance will come out when he pulls the trigger, but he's damn well excited to find out. But as he steps forward, there is a hand on his elbow, grabbing his arm, holding him back. He stops, surprised more than anything. He turns, confusion pinching his brow and pursing his lips until his eyes land on Keith. He blinks in surprise, glancing at the hand wrapped around his arm, folding it down to his arm to his face. When they make eye contact, he cocks his head to the side in silent question. Keith smirks, tries to anyway. It doesn't quite reach his eyes. There's tension there, apprehension, nervousness that got the fingers looped around his arm, shaking slightly. But his back is straight, shoulders pulled back, and his chin is held high. Alongside the shadows in his eyes is a speak of determination. Lance's breath catches in his throat because he knows what this means. He knows what Keith is asking by the simple gesture of grabbing his arm. He won't ask for it directly, won't beg for it. If Lance really wants to go, Keith won't stop him and won't complain. But as ready as Lance is to dance, he's even more excited by the prospect of watching Keith shine. The clock ticks. Keith's eyes flicker over Lance's shoulder to the center of the stage, then up higher to the clock above their opponents. 3 seconds. His eyes snap back to Lance's. Determination starting to crumble as his nerves sink in, eating away at whatever sparked confidence and impulsiveness caused him to step forward in the first place. Lance doesn't like that. Can't have that. Doesn't like the look of those shadows onto Keith's eyes. Uncertainty doesn't look good on him. 2 seconds. Keith had tightened around Lance's arm before it starts to drop away. He's already stepping back away from Lance and away from the center stage. Lance feels a tug at his heart, feels it down to his core, tugs at his strings. makes him reach out and grab Keith's wrist before he can completely pull away. 1 second, Lance spins, using his momentum and Keith's pride to tug him forward, flinging him bodily out into the stage. The last memorial dance is already backing away, leaving the space open and ready for Keith to occupy. He stumbles into it, less gracefully than what he probably would have liked, but it's too late now. It was the only way Lance could think to get him onto the stage, where he could clearly wanted to be, but had trouble putting himself. He faces, straightening and looking around, body held stiff and lips awkward, a deer caught in the headlights. He turns then, slowly looking over the crowd, until his eyes settle on Lance over his shoulder. He looks scared, and it makes Lance's chest ache, but he knows Keith can do it, and he knows Keith needs to do it. So it gives him a smile, soft and gentle. Pour his entire heart into it. Pours in all those feelings he's scared to name but feels anyway. Pours in everything he wants to say to Keith but is too scared to. Pours in all the excitement he feels for him. All the pride, all the encouragement, all the fondness, everything. Pours it all into a smile in his eyes, hoping it's enough. Gives him an expression that should, by rights, be private, but gives it to him out in the open because in this moment, this single second where their eyes locked, it is private. It's just between them. Then he tilts his chin, jerking it toward the center stage, and mouths the command. Dance! Somehow, unbelievably, that does the trick. The switch is flipped. Something comes over Keith's expression, and eerily come a centering flood of confidence as his smirk turns coy and his eyes spark. His whole body relaxes. Awkward angles turning lax, whole body drooping and cocking to a position that's far more natural and far more predatory. Then he tilts his head back, slowly rolling it back to face their opponents, shoulders rolling with it, shoulder blades shifting beneath his heart. His whole torso goes to it, arms move as the momentum rocks through his body, and then everything snaps into place. Lance wishes desperately that he could see the expression on Keith's face. Then Keith's moving, body alternating between states of liquid and solids. He moves like pitch, like Cheryl, wrapped up into a tightly wound little bundle of his own. Body snaps, hips roll, hands run down his chest and over his neck. He grinds down below, legs spread wide, and falls to the ground, only to spring back up with a move that Cheryl must have taught him. He doesn't move around much, but he owns the small place he's carved out for himself, makes it his own, claims it. He's predatory, animalistic in nature. It's primal and thrilling, moments going from big and grand, small and intimate in the blink of an eye. Keith's in competition mode, and it shows. He doesn't back down from a challenge, and he's owning this one. And throughout all the snaps and rolls, the quick motion and wide gestures, Lance can see some of himself in there. Can see the little playful edges, can see the coyness, the physical banter, something that Lance is certain Keith picked up from him. Then Keith catches his eye again, and his eyes are dark and lidded, and that smirk is fucking deadly before he's already moving on. Lance's mouth feels dry, feels like he can't breathe. His chest is filled with too much Keith. It's an overload, and it feels like he's shutting down. His heart feels like in his throat, attempting to rip itself right out of his chest. Because Keith is beautiful, Keith is powerful, Keith is graceful and sexy and playful and confident, and it's just Keith. And he's glad every fucking eye in that room is glued to Keith right now because Lance is having a major meltdown and he doesn't think he can hide it. Then the song is over, and a buzzer that indicates the end of the round is blaring. It startles Keith out of his moment, his daze like trance. He jerks, whipping around as he referee announces the end of the round. He looks lost and confused, but his cheeks are flush, pink, and his eyes are bright with adrenaline and excitement. He looks breathless. Then there's a movement on all sides of Lance as their friends rush to the center of the stage. Pitch gets there first, slamming to Keith's side and wrapping their arms around him. He stumbles but stays standing, hands hovering awkwardly in the air as he blinks rapidly, trying to take it all in. Then Hawk is there, plants himself, wraps the three of them up in his arms, and lifts them all off their feet. Allura gets there next, politely waiting to decide for her turn, and able to control her own grin. Sharon and Corinne laughs as they approach much slower but no less enthusiastically. It looks like they're all talking at once, laughing, gushing out everything. They keep on patting Keith, tugging him his way in that for hugs, wrapping him up, punching his arm, ruffling his hair. Lance can't hear them over the ringing in his ears. Can't hear much of anything. Everything from the crowd, to the referee's announcements, to the all thump of the filler music fades, to a fuzzy muted background noise, fixed in place, unable to move, chest molten and mind numb. He stares and stares and stares, tries to remember how to breathe, how to feel, because really, there are too many emotions, too many thoughts and feelings bouncing around his head and his chest, each vying for attention, but none able to stick. His focus narrows down to Keith and the dull, pleasant, twisting throb that starts in his stomach and spreads outward, filling him and feeling like it's trying to burst through his chest. It's a familiar feeling, one he's had several times before, one he even had about Keith, though he hates to admit and definitely used to do at a time. He knows this feeling, even if he's never felt it this strongly before. He's scared for this feeling, but that won't stop him from feeling it. He doesn't want to stop feeling it, and it's terrifying, it's beautiful, dangerous, and exhilarating. Then Keith looks up, finds his gaze, and locks on. His expression instantly softens. Eyes going lidded and crinkling at the edge of his hand, tilts to the side. His hair falls across his forehead, curling around his ears. His face still flushed, and his smile goes from wide and excited to blissful and shy. It's a private smile, despite being shared across the length of the stage. Lance feels a similar smile tugging at his own lips, widening as fucking pride wells up in his chest. Because Keith did it, and he knew he could. And Keith looks so proud and pleased with himself that if it hurts Lance that he's not touching him right now. But at the same time, he knows if he were to touch him, he might not be able to stop. So he stays where he is, grin stretched wide, and crosses his arms over his chest, hoping that might somehow both keep his hands to himself and also stops his heart from breaking through his ribs. I couldn't explain to this whole story, but they are starting dancing, and they just keep every single turn from every 15 seconds, every 20 seconds. Either one or two people get their turn to dance, and then they just keep going back and forth. And then when it stops, when at 15 seconds, all that stuff, it's now Keith and Lance. They're doing it. They're dancing, and now at the end, that totally ends the round, and they're really proud of it. They cannot get even more exciting than that is for dancing. But oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that was going to happen like that. The way the dance operates is fairly simple. There are 6 teams, and every dance team faces off against each other once, going back and forth through a 10-minute song. Each song is different, all unique, but they all have predictable elements that make it easy to dance to. At the end of each round, the referee conducts a fan favorite vote, done by pointing at each team and judging how loud the crowd cheers. It helps in their score, but the judges have the final word at the end of the night. There are 10 judges total, sitting in a section off area of the second floor balcony, all with sashes across their chests. 5 of them are chosen and selected by the operators of the event, and 5 of them are chosen randomly through a raffle entered when people pay for admission. At the end of the night, after everyone has gone through their rounds, there's a long break in which 6 buckets are placed on each of the bars, each bucket labeled with the team's names. Upon admission, everyone is given a token. Tokens are then used by votes by placing them in the bucket of choice. 2 teams with the highest amount of tokens go to finals and face off in the final dance-off. Winner is chosen by the judges. So far, Lance thinks they're doing pretty good. They won a lot of fan favorite votes, and they're slaying the competition. But more than that, they're having fun, and most importantly, Keith is having fun. After getting that push out of his comfort zone, he's been taking that step on his own. By their second round, he's already started stepping out on his own, taking his own turns and owning them just like the rest of them. When he dances, Lance can't keep his eyes off of him, and when he falls back into the line with them, Lance can hardly keep his hands off of him. He pulls Keith to his side often than not, rests his elbow on his shoulder, playfully punches his arm. He wants to do more than that. He wants to pull Keith to him and bury his hands in his hair, wants to bite at his lips and lick his way to his mouth, wants to press against him and feel every hard, smooth planes of his body, wants to push his knee between Keith's legs and grunt against his thigh, wants to slip his hands under his shirt and dance his fingertips across every dip and line of his stomach and chest, firm enough to feel, but light enough to make Keith's muscles switch with anticipation. He wants to do these things, but can't. Not on the stage, not while they're still dancing. His body and heart are torn between needing to drag Keith into the closest corner and needing to be at the center of the stage, performing. Thankfully, Lance isn't alone in his struggle. You can tell Keith is right there with him. You can see in the way Keith watches him when he dances, eyes lidded and dark. You can see in the way Keith locks his eyes with him before his body rolls. You can see in the way his hands curl into fists, cross over his chest to keep from reaching out to him. You can see in a way he leans into Lance just slightly. In a way he almost lazily drapes an arm around his waist when Lance throws an arm over his shoulders. Casual and friendly, save for the way his fingertips slip beneath the hem of his shirt, playing lightly with his hip bone. You can see in a way Keith smiles, and know he's thinking the same thing. When they're not dancing, they gather as a team near the stage, watching the other competitors dance. It's in these moments that they can slip in more subtle touches, more wandering hands, when they're blending into the crowd and their friends' attention are fixed elsewhere. But it's not enough. It only makes him want more. They finally get an opportunity when the last of the rounds finishes, and the referee announces there will be a break before the finals. He encourages everyone to vote at either bar, but they're already turned away from the stage. Cran dismisses them, but not before fixing them all with a stern stare as he tells them to be back here in time for the announcement. Laura takes Shio's hand and tugs him off to the dance floor, where bodies riff and the bass pounds. For the moment, the warehouse looks like any other club. It slips away to Matt's DJ booth, Corinne wandering after them. Hunk steps away as soon as they dismiss, headed for where the judges are leaving their post. Lance catches Keith's eye and trails his fingertips down his arm, slipping his hand to Keith's. The look they exchange, the small tilt of lips, the smolder in Keith's eyes. It's all in the courage Lance needs to turn, tugging Keith through the crowd behind him. He can't tell if the pulse raging against his wrists is Keith's or his own. How could you even say yes and say no to either way? But it's just like getting to a little bit more, especially getting more exciting than what it is occurred. Hopefully it does definitely working out this way, because it just keep going and getting letting on this way. Just to be clear. Alright. It's getting private right here because I want to go to my room, because this next part is NSFW. So now's the time. If you don't want to let me read this whole thing, just skip this part and we're moving on to the very end, which is longer than what it is. Alright, here we go. Warning you. Yes, this is your last chance. This is your last chance to turn yourselves away, because this next part is NSFW. It's not safe for work. This is a last chance. Alright. You'll be warned. You asked for it. As soon as the door shuts behind him, Keith is pushing him up against it. Lips are on his, hungry and eager, the sloppy and their expression. Their teeth clack and it's messy, but Lance can't bring himself to care because it's Keith. Keith in his hands, tasting him on his tongue, feeling his body pressing him up against the door, soft and hard in all the right places. Keith's hands grabbing at him, uncoordinated in their eagerness. Fingers curling to his shirt, dragging beneath to run nails down his back and sides, making his back arch pushes body Keith's and tilting his head to the side. Keith's lips trail down his jaw, teeth running down the column of his neck, making his breath hitch. His hands are on the Keith's shirt, without really remembering how or when he got them there. He runs his fingers, wide blade down Keith's back, nails hooking to skin just enough to scratch, shivers running down his spine as Keith growls against his pulse. Keith bites down and Lance gasps, sound trailing off into a low moan. His buck forward and Keith slides his knee between Lance's legs, pressing his thigh against him. Lance bites back another sound, but he still hears it as a whine deep in his throat, hips canting helplessly as he rubs himself against Keith's thigh. Keith's hips push back. Lance can feel him hard and pressed up against his thigh. Lance needs more, wants more, needs it like air. One hand slides up Keith's chest, mapping out the build of it beneath his shirt before sliding up his neck, curling his fingers into those dark locks he'd been fantasizing about it for hours. He grips hard, tugging Keith's head back, swinging down his groan as he pushes forward to Keith's mouth again. His other hand slides down his back, enjoying the curve of his lower back, fingers dipping down his dimples before pushing past the waistband of his pants, shoving under the tab material to get a firm grip on his ass. Keith's hip jerked forward, and Lance pushed back. They find a rhythm, disjointed but syncing up, the bodies grinding desperately, mouths moving hungrily, breaths heavy pants, and whistling exhales through their noses. Lance's hands remain buried in Keith's hair and pants, holding on for dear life as Keith's hands roam beneath his shirt, rough, callous hands, exploring his chest, sides, back, nails digging in the flesh, thumbs flicking across his nipples. Then Lance's knees are buckling, and he can feel Keith's thighs shaking against his own. He's not sure who moves first, and it doesn't even matter. One, they're standing, and next, they're sliding into the floor in an instant. Lance, heavily, unwilling to let go of his hold on Keith, unwilling to stop kissing him. He doesn't think he can at this point. Keith is just so good, tastes too good, sounds so good. He's a dying man, and Keith is in his salvation. So Lance sits with his back to the door, legs stretched out, and Keith maneuvers his way to Lance's lap, straddling him. Lance whines when Keith pulls away to move, leaning forward to chase after his lips. But then he has a lap full of Keith and glove, hands cradling his face, firm but incredibly gentle as they pull him forward into another kiss. Keith wastes no time licking into his mouth, and Lance is already open for him, eager for the give and take, the push and pull, the back and forth of their lips. Keith's fingers curling to Lance's hair, tilting his head just the way he wants it, mouth devouring his tugging at the short strands. Lance gasps, wine rumbling in his throat. His hand slips from Keith's hair, running down his shirt, as his other hand slips reluctantly away from his ass. Keith's hips are running against him helplessly, and Lance has to hold him firmly to get him settled down before his fingers fumble with the button and the zipper. Keith huffs a short laugh against him as Lance struggles, and he leans forward, smiling and playfully nipping at Keith's lips in response. When he finally gets them undone, he tucks them open, reaching past Keith's boxers to wrap long fingers around his length. Keith gasps, head spinning back as Lance runs his thumb over his head. He's already hard, and Lance can't even bring himself to make fun of him because his own is achingly hard and begging to be touched. But right now, Lance has Keith riffing in his lap, and his own pleasure takes the backseat to that any day of the week. He leans forward, lips latching into Keith's neck, leaving open mouth kisses up to his ear, sucking on the sensitive spot just below it, loving the way Keith cranes his neck, hips bucking into his hand as Lance slowly explores his length. It doesn't take long for Keith to grow impatient, and it makes a soft, frustrated sound. Lance finds himself smiling, a hand on his shoulder, pushing him back to the door, and Keith is chasing after him, finding his lips again, as his hands slide down his chest, pushing down the waistband of his pants with no preamble and pulling him out. Lance's breath hitches when Keith touches him, back arching and head hitting the door. Keith smirks against his lips, and Lance can't bring himself to care, because Then Keith is pushing his hands aside, shifting his hips so they are closer, and taking both of their cocks in his hand. Then he's stroking them both together, and Lance can't help the whine that slips past his lips, devolving into a groan. Keith echoes him a moment later, low and deep and rumbling. Keith's forehead against his, nose bumping, lips hovering and brushing together both of them, panting heavily. His free hand presses to Lance's hip, balancing and anchoring himself. Lance's hands slipped around Keith, one hand gripping tight to his back, and the other on the swell of his ass. He bucks up to Keith's hand, and Keith ruts against him. Brad's mingling sounds felt through where they touch, echoing the quiet of the bathroom. Music from the speakers out in the warehouse, distant and muted. Lance knows he's being loud. He knows each exhale drags across his vocal cords, dragging his sounds out through his lips, but he doesn't care. He can barely hear them. He's so wholly focused on Keith, eating up and memorizing every sound torn from his throat, falling from his lips. His forehead drops to Keith's shoulder, eyes lit as he stares down at them. Tries to memorize what he looks like against Keith, how he looks in Keith's hand. Keith picks up speed, and as Lance biting a back of wine, Keith is pulling in his gut, butt tightening and hips jerking. He can feel Keith's body shaking beneath his hands, feels the unsteadiness and the erratic cant of his hips. Then Keith's pushing him back, leaning forward to latch his lips into Lance's exposed collarbone, biting down and sucking hard, running his tongue over the abused spot before spawning at it again. Lance tilts his head back, eyes squeezing shut as his hand tightened, nails digging the flesh. Keith! He doesn't know who first. Doesn't fucking care. He doesn't care that they're in the dingy style person, bathroom that had been used by countless drunk people over the past few hours. Doesn't give a that they're entangled on the floor with the fluorescent lights bright against the back of his eyelids. Doesn't give a shit that he can hear someone banging outside the door and jiggling the handle. Doesn't care where they are, that they're a mess, that his shirt is probably stained and Keith's gloves are probably a mess. Can't bring in some to give a single fuck that evidence will show up against the black of their clothes. He doesn't care because Keith is in his lap, panting against his collarbones, boneless and comfortable, humming softly and nuzzling into his neck when Lance gently runs his fingers through his ink dark hair. Doesn't give a single fuck because he and Keith are here together. His chest is buzzing and warm, tight and full, and he really, really fucking likes Keith. And for once, instead of constricting his throat, that thought has him feeling like he can finally breathe for the first time in a long time. You've been warned. Alright, welcome back to the good side, everybody. Time to finish this off. They make it out of the bathroom, clothes wet from when they attempt to clean them off. Keith's gloves washed and dry and shoved in his pocket. He turns to announce it over the speakers. And by your vote and our judges, the finalists are Voltron and the Golra Empire. The crowd roars throughout the warehouse, and Lance lets out a loud whoop, jumping and throwing a fist in the air. He blindly grabs for Keith's hand without really thinking about it, and finds it waiting for him. Fingers automatically weaving together. Without his gloves, Keith's hand is warm and smooth, softer than Lance expected. He could use the excuse of needing to pull and guide Keith through the crowd, but quite honestly, he doesn't see the point. The matter of fact is that he's holding Keith's hand because he wants to, because he's happy, high on adrenaline and excitement and Keith, and he can't stand the thought of not touching him right now, in this moment. He weaves through the crowd, dragging Keith along in his wake, shoving when he gets too impatient as they make their way to the stage. He finds their friends sitting next to it, noticeable in their matching outfits, clustered so close. He drops Keith's hand to dash through an opening at them, stamps right into the pitch at full speed, and lifts them off their feet, spinning them around and laughing as they curse. "Put me down!" Lance squeezes them. "We did it! We did it!" he chants, finally popping them down on their feet. "Nice of you, too, to join us," Laura says, crossing her arms over her chest, hip cocked to the side, one delicate eyebrow arched and amusement playing across her lips. Yes. You're... Oh, no. Yes, you're quite a few ticks late, Francis, stroking his mustache, eyes dancing. Yeah, you're late, Pitch says, digging their thumb into the sore spot on his collarbone, a spot that he's certain has newly formed bruise. He swats their hand away, locking his arm around their neck and pulling them in close to dig his knuckles into their hair. It's called being fashionably late. They struggle, then say, "What do you know about being fashionable?" Rude. When they finally wiggle out of his arms, he glances over at Key. He's sandwiched between Hunk and Sheer, both with their arms crossed over their chests, grinning as they side-eyed him, nudging his sides playfully. Keith scowls at them both, cheeks tinted dark enough to be seen in the spotlights above the stage. He doesn't have to suffer long, however, before Crane shooing them all onto the stage for the final dance-off. The format for the final is like any of the dance-offs they had so far, but now they all know the routine. They line up as the referee hypes the crowd. Not that he needs to do much. By now, everyone in the warehouse is thoroughly drunk and thoroughly warmed up. They line up in a loose arc, facing their opponents. The Gora is the team that has been around for a long time, before they even form Voltron, and usually they don't win. It's because the Gora do. They form in a spoken environment because of it, and everyone's been to this event before knows it. Lance can feel that they know it, can feel the tension and anticipation buzzing in the air, chittering in the crowd. He won't be surprised if people vote for them just to see them face off again. Allure wins, and Voltron goes first. The song starts, one that's more hyped than the others have been, appropriate for the finals. It starts out low, driving forward, building speed and volume. Lance waits right up until the 10-second mark before he's throwing himself forward, sprinting from a standstill toward the center stage, going down to his knees. Halfway there and sliding the rest of the way, hoops onto his toes and throws his momentum backwards, bending his back and planting his hand behind him, kicking his feet up into the air and holding it for a second before swinging his feet down. He's moving again as soon as his feet land. But first Gara is already stepping forward, stalking around him, never getting too close to center stage, but staring him down. It's an intimidation tactic, and a damn good one. It also works wonders for building the dance of suspense and pleasing the crowd. But if they're looking to throw Lance off his game, they're going to have to do better than that. He's used to this. He thrives on the attention and spotlight. This is his element. He's got a crowd to witness him, a song around him, friends behind him, and a damn fine boy watching his ass. Making pulls on his body like strings, bass moving his limbs like water, beat snapping at his joints. Then his 15 seconds are up, and the Gara is in his face, pushing forward into his space and forcing him back. He steps back, arms played wide, unafraid and intimidated. The Gara is already dancing, movement dramatic with a flair. As much as Lance isn't a fan of them personally, can't deny that they had skill. No sooner did they had started before Laura's stalking for it. Expression almost bored had it not been for the spark of challenge in her eyes. She steps up near center stage, hip cocked and one arm crossed over her chest. She idly inspects her nails, making a show of it, but Lance can see her keeping an eye on the clock. As soon as it's their turn, she's sliding in, whipping to the center and forcing the other out, and away by sheer proximity, making a dramatic flare, shooing them away before claiming the stage for herself. And it goes on like that, both teams constantly talking the center, waiting for their own turn, prowling before diving into rip the spotlight away. There are a lot more gesture exchange, and a lot more stare downs. It's tense, but it's also intense, heated in a way that brings out a fire in their hearts, makes them prove themselves, makes them refuse to lose. Everything else fades. He doesn't see the audience, and the roaring cheers fade into a muted white noise behind the beat that's thriving in his veins, filling the air, driving him onward. He only pays attention to the other team and the clock, his energy and his friends. His team is like a live wire, sparkling and sizzling through each of them. He barely glances at them as they take turns stepping up to take the stage. They sync up, glances, and words unnecessary are they feel each other and their tensions. Whenever Keith stands up to dance, Lance feels a heat burning bright in his chest. Feels invigorated as he watches Keith stares down the competition. Dance like Lance always knew he could uninhibited and free. There is a confidence in his pose, a power in his movements with a spark in his eyes, and a cockiness in his breath. Lance fucking loves it, and when Keith meets his gaze, he can feel the fire burning between them. Two of the girls jump up in at once, doing a combo that somehow manages to be individual and in sync. Lance makes eye contact with Hunk, exchanging a nod, smiles curving their lips. When the third turn, they both dive forward, taken to the stage with a flair and synergy that's born from years of knowing each other, years of dancing together. When two more girls step up to show off a combination dance, different styles weaving together flawlessly. Cheryl and Laura stand up to the challenge, following them up with teamwork that is beautiful, powerful, and undeniably perfect. They move like extensions of the other, both able to stand alone but standing stronger together. The gold rod throw out a dancer sweeps across the stage in rapid spins, kicks, jumps, and explosive movements, keeping all of them back from stalking closer. Crane is up for this challenge, darting forward when it's their turn, taking those spins and kick and jumps and putting more of a flair on them, and then diving into it. A fire and a rage. It's starting to feel like a battle, and Lance loves it. Next guard takes the center stage with a sideways flip, a cartwheel without hands. He's built big, thick arms strong as he does a lot of hand work, flipping his body and supporting it as he spins, kicking up his legs. Lance has tried enough of those moves to know it's impressive, but he also knows that this guy is just showing off moves. There's no flair, no showmanship. Let's crack into a cocky smirk. He pushes into the guy's face with quick foot movements, following after him as he backs up, shooing them off. Then he shoots them finger guns before flipping backwards, going up in his hands and launching himself into a jump. When his feet land, he goes down into floor work, quick and precise, cutting it with a lot of up and down, a lot of movements of his body that have him right side up, upside down, sideways, and every orientation between. When his time is almost up, he sees one of the guards standing up. He recognizes her. They face off against them far too many times for him not to. She's slim, agile, and incredibly acrobatic. She sashays past him, cocking an eyebrow and a finger as she makes her way to the edge of the stage. He smirks, following her lead as he dances his way to the same edge. He knows what she wants. She usually takes to the center with tumbles, flipping over feet, spinning in the air. She does it every time, but this time she's summoning him to the edge of the stage, and he knows why. She's challenging him. She's seen him work, seen his flips, and is challenging him to keep it going. Thinks she can show him up, bring flair to the start of her turn. How can a gentleman say no? He lines up to the edge of the stage, facing the crowd, right at the last second of his turn. She's in the same position, a few feet away. He makes eye contact and she nods, a spark on her lips. His eyes spark, smirk widening as he nods back. They're both flipping backwards, throwing their weight and bodies back, bending and landing on their hands before carrying the momentum through. Hands, feet, hands, feet, hands, feet. They flip together across the length of the stage. He's vaguely aware of her next to him, but he doesn't know how well she's doing or how fast she's going. All he can do is focus on himself and his drive. His drive to do better, to look better, to be better. She wants to show him up, but he is determined to steal the spotlight for himself. So it keeps going. Flips across the stage, keeping an eye on his surroundings as they tumble by. World spinning. He doesn't do this often, rarely needs to, preferring to stay in a more confined space, but he's done enough to know that he can. Knows he can trust his body to do what it needs to do. He counts his flips, watches how close to the edge of the stage he gets. 3 more, 2 more, 1 more, stop. He does a little leap in the last one, planting his feet with the front stopped, throws his arms up in the air, wide grin on his face. Out of the corner of his eye, you can see that his opponent has stopped too, but it's not for long. She's already moving, dancing her way back to the center of the stage. After all, her turn has just begun. Lance moves to take a step forward and step back towards where his friends are waiting, but his head is still spinning. A lot worse than he anticipated. Oh no. The warehouse spins. His father's blinding, adding to it. Disorienting as his mind tries to catch up to what he's seeing. His weight shifts, balance thrown off and not quite covered. He stumbles a step trying to catch himself, but then his heel is hovering over open air. He panics, whipping his head around to see that he's a lot closer to the edge of the stage than he anticipated. His calculation must have been off. He turns too fast, vision swimming and spinning. Body unable to find balance at his feet slip off the stage, arms flailing uselessly. For just a second, he's in a free fall. One terrifyingly long second. A second that stretches out into minutes, hours, days, lifetimes. A long second that ticks by in slow motion, mind whirling a mile a minute, but unable to come up with any coherent thoughts other than no, 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 no. Shh. He's not even sure that his heart beats in that second, squeezing painfully in his chest as panic rises up to choke off the wordless shout in his throat. And then the second passes, and the freefall ends with pain shooting up his leg. He feels more than hears the crack as his ankle slips and impact shoots up his leg. Feels it vibrate through him. Feels the grind of his ankle rolling. Feels the crack of his things that definitely shouldn't crack. Hears the impact of his landing echo in his ears. And then he lies, standing up at the ceiling of the warehouse. Mind spinning and reeling. The spotlight hurts his eyes. He can distantly feel the music pulsing through the floor, but he can't hear it. Sees unfamiliar faces and familiar faces are like popping into his vision, but he can't focus on them. Vaguely notices their mouths moving, but he can't hear the voices over the ringing in his ears. The sharp pain left as soon as it came, leaving it just a dull throb echoing up his right leg, almost indistinguishable from the pound of bass. He feels distant, disjointed, disconnected, body numb and mind not quite aware of it. He knows somewhere in his awareness what has happened. He knows. He has all the evidence, put the pieces together, but every time he reaches for that conclusion, it shies away. Body and mind recoiling from it. Can't accept it. Can't be real. It can't be real. It can't be real. It can't be real. Not happening. Not happening. Facing his field of vision, but he can't focus on them enough to recognize them. They come and go, features mixing, a flash of yellow, orange hair, a glint of glasses, scar, white hair, beautiful and midnight eyes. Lips form words that his ears belatedly recognize at his name. They look worried. They sound panicked. He knows he's probably feeling the same things, but his awareness of those emotions are dull and muted, buried under a fog of disbelief and shock. His consciousness, fragile and pulled back, sheltering itself in a bubble of denial and fear. He stares at the lights, blinding and burning, as his focus narrows down the heavy bump of his heart, loud and hard against the ribcage. Each pulse feeling the mantra repeating in his mind. No, 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 no. Yep, the plane had been crashed because of land. Wow, that totally goes from the positive side and it goes from way down. Oh, that's pretty sad. That's pretty depressing. What would you expect from this story? I mean, with this chapter. It's called Break the Ice. After all, it's just a chapter. It kind of goes from uphill to downhill in just a few moments. They want to have that tension coming our way, and then goes downhill. Wow. Can't believe Lance is breaking his leg now. That's terrifying. Okay, guys. That is the end of this chapter. I know it's going to be really bad right now, this day, at this point of it. But the story is just keeps going on. And what will you expect for it? What would you expect for this one when I'm reading this? Huh? I think I have enough for this one. I'm done. I still have 3 more chapters left. I need to get through all those 3 chapters left, and then we're done with the series. Okay? Alright, guys. Goodbye, everybody. Oh.